The flames rose in a raging inferno, engulfing the building in a sea of fire. The air around it twisted from the intense heat. Thick smoke billowed up high. The people in the gang hurriedly used water to extinguish the fire. Cries of alarm echoed everywhere. If it reaches the warehouse, it will be disastrous. Has the gang leader not arrived yet? Seeing the flames growing large, the butler quickly ordered the subordinates to go call for more people. Dozens of people hurriedly took buckets of water to put out the fire. The sound of water being poured continuously echoed. The loud cries of the people only made the atmosphere more tense. Be careful. Hurry up. The wind is strong. At this moment, the gang leader had arrived and witnessed the scene of the mansion being consumed by the sea of flames, with the smell of burning filling the air. He was so shocked that he couldn't believe it. What was happening? Everyone was too busy to respond to him. All of them were trying their best to put out the fire. The sea of fire stretched to the sky, as if it wanted to burn everything in its path. The gang leader anxiously ran to ask the servants, "Where are Jin-er and the madam?" The subordinates were visibly relieved to see his arrival. The butler, respectful and formal, replied, "Sir, the madam and young master are taking refuge in the villa. Please do not worry too much." The gang leader, with his high rank, breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a beam on the roof, unable to withstand the flames, collapsed, startling everyone. All the servants near the courtyard, trying to put out the fire, hurriedly retreated to avoid being crushed by the falling beam. The butler quickly shouted for everyone to stay alert and move away from the area. The gang leader remained dazed as he watched his mansion crumble. The butler urgently reminded him, "Gang leader, please move away." In his eyes, there was only one image: the raging flames, burning a large area of the secluded villa, far from the fire. This was where the madam and son of the gang leader were taking refuge. A voice called out for his mother, trembling with fear, as the boy's voice echoed. He was comforted in his mother's arms. Her soft voice, "I'm really scared," was soothing as she lovingly patted him. The gang leader's wife was a kind and gentle mother. She tenderly held her son close. "Don't worry. Your father will take care of everything." In her eyes, there was concern, but more so, a determination to be strong for her young son. Her hand gently stroked his cheek as she repeated in a calm, patient voice, "It will be fine." After a night of turmoil, the fire was extinguished, and luckily, it did not affect the surrounding areas much. In the guest room of the main hall, an old but authoritative voice was heard. "Niem Namo Amitabha Buddha." The steam from the tea rose, filling the air. The Grandmaster sighed in regret for the fire the night before. The gang leader, with his high status, responded respectfully. "Luckily, the fire did not spread. Everything has been controlled, and Jin Woo has arrived." "What happened?" The Grandmaster gently ran his fingers over the wooden beads of his prayer beads. Only then did he speak. "I have said before, I have a small talent." The gang leader is indeed the renowned leader of Yuncheng-bang, Zhang Daoyun. He suddenly remembered that the small talent he had mentioned was fortune-telling. Jin Woo went straight to the point. "Recently, Master Truong has been encountering misfortunes. I have examined the horoscope of the child." As soon as he mentioned this, Zhang Daoyun paused in surprise while holding his teacup. Full of doubt, he asked, "Is it the horoscope of Jin-er?" The face of the Yuncheng-bang leader was now filled with panic and concern. Could something bad happen to the child? The boy, Zhang Jin, in the words of the two men, stood silently, looking at the ruins of the fire from the night before. His expression was full of regret for the familiar courtyard, filled with memories. The voice of Jin Woo then contradicted. "Not necessarily." Zhang Daoyun became more anxious. "Then, could it be that our family is facing disaster?" Jin Woo hesitated for a moment and muttered, "I am not sure how to explain it." Seeing him remain vague, Zhang Daoyun couldn't keep his composure due to his extreme worry. What exactly was going on? "Please, Great Master, explain clearly." He continuously speculated about the horoscope that the master had read. Could it be that the family would face ruin? Or was the child doomed to an early death? Jin Woo heard everything, but remained silent, lost in thought. Finally, Zhang Daoyun had no choice but to reveal the divine secrets. "The child's fate is strong, He will live long, not a short life. But there was more to the story. Zhang Daoyun raised his head, listening attentively. Jinwu revealed the result of the divination. The body is weak, but has the presence of a noble. It becomes a destructive force, causing the land to crack and crumble. Zhang Daoyun, not understanding fortune-telling, was left confused. What does this mean, Great Master? Jinwu patiently explained. Wealth will flow into the house, but it will be like pouring water into a leaking basin, with the hole larger than the amount of water, leading to depletion. Hearing the words of the Great Master, Zhang Daoyun was still in shock and silent. After a long pause, he quickly came to his senses, his eyes wide in disbelief at what Jinwu had just said. Losing control, he slammed the table and pressed on urgently. Are you saying that Jin is the whole? The child's fate will lead to ruin. Jinwu gently recited to help Zhang Daoyun calm down. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Even a powerful gang leader couldn't accept the truth. His hands trembled on the table, and his shoulders slumped as if burdened by 1,000 weights. The heavens are truly merciless. I struggled so much to have this son. Jinwu calmly interrupted him. It's not that there's no solution. In fact, I came here to discuss this with you, Master Truong. Zhang Daoyun was surprised, but his joy could not be hidden, and he repeatedly asked, There's a way. At that moment, Zhang Jin was carefully studying with his mother. He was eager to learn and read quickly, his eyes shining as if he had made a new discovery. Jinwu offered a possible solution. If the child is sent to a virtuous monk to be educated, in a place of simplicity, it may help patch up the hole. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin continued happily reading with his mother, unaware that his life was about to change, shifting the course of his fate. Zhang Daoyun heard this proposal and felt regret. But the child is my only heir. I had him after I turned over 40, and now you want me to send him to a monastery. Wouldn't that mean the end of my bloodline? Jinwu remained seated, his demeanor unchanged by Zhang Daoyun's reaction. He calmly responded, Did I advise you to send your son to a monastery? Jinwu explained slowly, As long as you educate the child until he is 5, when his character is formed, there will be no further problems. Zhang Daoyun's voice couldn't hide his joy, and he quickly confirmed. He doesn't need to go to a monastery. Jinwu helplessly replied. Yes, it's quite contradictory for a monk to tell someone not to go to a monastery. Zhang Daoyun laughed with relief. You really startled me, Great Master. He had thought everything through and had found a solution. Coincidentally, I know a suitable place to send him. I will come to take him when the time is right. Zhang Daoyun was deeply moved. Thank you, Great Master. 1,000 thanks. Without Jinwu, with compassion and charity, I could not have done anything. It is all due to the merit accumulated by Master Truong. May the Buddha witness it. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Seeing this, Zhang Daoyun, even as the gang leader, was full of respect, clasping his hands together and sincerely chanting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Jinwu then explained the Buddhist teachings to Zhang Daoyun about faith, virtue, way, benevolence, heaven, wisdom, and the countless merits that all come from Buddhist teachings. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Zhang Daoyun also understood this profound philosophy, his heart full of faith, and he softly chanted, Namo Amitabha Buddha. The warm sunlight shone down on the grand manor of Yuncheng. The young master, once spoiled and well-fed in the gang leader's mansion, was now being forced by 2 servants onto a carriage to leave for the monastery. His mother repeatedly called out for Zhang Jin, and his father, unable to bear it, turned to comfort his wife. Stop, madam. It's already been decided. But she was anxious, crying. How could I bear to leave my child like this? Zhang Daoyun couldn't bear it either, but there was no other choice. Zhang Jin, who had been pampered since childhood and had never suffered, could not accept it. He struggled and refused to get on the carriage. Zhang Daoyun comforted his wife. It is the monk Guangmu from Shaolin Temple. He will teach Jin. She cried even louder. That monk had a strange personality, and everyone was wary of him. Why send Jin to someone like him? Hearing this, Jinwu felt a bit uneasy. Zhang Daoyun quickly reassured his wife. His virtue is profound, something we ordinary people can't understand. He couldn't bear to part with his son, but everything was for the sake of the family and the gang. He promised it would only be for 10 years. Zhang Daoyun repeatedly insisted. Only 10 years, no more, no less, which made her relent, despite Zhang Jin struggling unhappily. Zhang Daoyun firmly ordered the servants to quickly get him on the carriage. The mother and child were reluctant to part. Zhang Jin, just a child who had never been away from home, couldn't stay calm. It took 3 servants to lift Zhang Jin onto the carriage safely. They didn't want to hurt him, but had no choice but to persuade him to stop struggling. Zhang Jin stubbornly clung to the carriage door, making Jin Wu gently try to calm him. Zhang Daoyun saw this and sternly reminded him. "Jin I've already explained." His loud shout stunned him. "If you don't go, our family will go bankrupt, and even our lives will be at risk. The fate of the family rests on you." Zhang Jin was too young to understand the weight of this. He felt wronged, tears welling up in his eyes. In that moment, Zhang Jin let go of his grip. The carriage door finally closed. All his sadness and frustration built up, and he repeatedly banged on the door. "I won't go. Let me out." Jin Wu sighed at Zhang Jin's strong resistance, quietly chanting, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." His parents and Jin Wu bid their farewells, and the carriage door slammed shut, marking the turning point in Zhang Jin's life. The carriage sped down the road, not looking back. From that moment on, Zhang Jin's life, away from his warm family, had begun. When they arrived, all Zhang Jin could see around him were mountains and forests, the stillness of nature. For a child, the quiet was boring. Zhang Jin's eyes kept watching the carriage that had disappeared from view. He couldn't hold back his worry and loneliness. 2 streams of tears ran down his chubby cheeks. After a while, he tried to stop crying, but the tears kept flowing down his face. Zhang Jin was strong-willed, biting his lip, wiping away the tears, silently thinking of himself as a little kitten abandoned alone. He stood still for a long while, then realized the bitter truth. No matter how much he cried or struggled, it wouldn't change anything. Zhang Jin glanced around, telling himself to accept the reality. Enough. He looked back and saw an old stone staircase, covered with moss. From just a glance, it was clear how old the stairs were. At the top of this steep staircase, a dignified figure stood looking down. It was Guangmu, the monk. Zhang Jin looked up at him, but instead of fear, his eyes shone with determination, displaying his strong will. Despite his young age, he had accepted the reality. The harsh reality was that he had to live with that skinny old monk for 10 years, on a cliff, with only the mountains and trees surrounding him. Guangmu's dwelling consisted of a small hut and 2 wooden benches outdoors. There was also a small corner of a garden where vegetables were grown. Zhang Jin sat on one of the benches, recalling his father's words. Father said, "I carry the fate of bringing ruin to the family." He glanced at Guangmu, who was focused on planting vegetables. "I must live with this virtuous monk." At a young age, Zhang Jin was burdened with heavy responsibilities. He clenched his lips tightly. "If the family declines, my mother, father, and even the orchid, who brings me delicious food every day, will all die." He understood the current situation and the responsibility he had to bear, whether he wanted to or not. He had to stay here for 10 years. He kept looking at Guangmu, who was still engrossed in planting vegetables. He hoped to live peacefully with the old master. Zhang Jin sighed heavily, while Guangmu didn't glance at him once, focused entirely on his garden. He kept tending to the plants, as if the presence of a child like Zhang Jin didn't matter. Zhang Jin looked around, then made up his mind. "I can't just stand here like this. I have to do something." Zhang Jin noticed a broom leaning against the corner of the wall. He quickly grabbed it and began sweeping the fallen leaves in the yard. His sweeping was a bit clumsy, causing the leaves and dust to scatter wildly. At this point, Guangmu could no longer ignore him. He frowned and sternly asked, "The fallen leaves have piled up. Why are you sweeping?" Zhang Jin showed no fear and replied, "Because the leaves have piled up, sir." Guangmu coldly shouted, If you want to win my favor to learn martial arts, it's useless. Upon hearing this, Zhang Jin responded sincerely and politely. That's not the case, sir. Guangmu didn't listen to his explanation, dismissively saying, You're just a merchant's child. Anyway, I wasn't planning to teach you Shaolin martial arts. Zhang Jin felt frustrated that his explanation was in vain and made a face. He quickly took large strides toward Guangmu and soon stood in front of him, clearly saying, I didn't come here to learn martial arts, though. Zhang Jin, so resolute, startled Guangmu. His eyes were full of seriousness and determination, showing his character and will despite his young age. Later, Guangmu, looking into those bright eyes, seemed to revisit forgotten memories. I don't like interacting with others. I've lived alone in the forest for 30 years. He wasn't like other monks. Partly due to laziness and his martial skills not being advanced enough to teach, he hadn't taken disciples. Even Shaolin Temple had given up on him, leaving him to do as he pleased. One day, Guang Yun Great Master visited and shared, If you stay here alone, it will be lonely. No one to take care of you. Why don't you find a little monk to keep you company? Guangmu refused outright, and even questioned him loudly. Guang Yun Great Master calmly reminded him, Listen to me. This is not just a request, but a fate arranged by Buddha. Hearing this, Guangmu couldn't refuse any further, though he still felt uneasy. He had a bad impression of Zhang Jin, having heard that the young monk abbot had mentioned him as the son of a wealthy merchant. It must have been a payment, but too inconvenient to accept at the temple, so they sent him here. Thinking of this, Guangmu didn't hold back, saying directly, You didn't come here to learn martial arts. Do you think I believe that? He was certain that Zhang Jin had ulterior motives. Keep asking. Then why did you come to this remote mountain? No matter what you say, your parents won't think so. Guangmu lost patience and coldly turned to leave. I'll teach you a few moves, and then you can go back home. Seeing that he wouldn't listen to his explanation and was making wild assumptions, Zhang Jin felt extremely upset. He cried out in frustration. I didn't want to come here either. Despite trying to act tough, being just a child in the prime of life, when he was wronged, he could only cry. I carry the fate of destroying my family, and I must live with a virtuous monk for 10 years. These words clearly made Guangmu pause. Zhang Jin tried to hold back his tears, gritting his teeth as he said each word. If not, everyone will die. Guangmu didn't know what to say. Though he didn't turn around, his gaze was still on the boy behind him. Zhang Jin's voice was like sobs, yet behind it was immense strength. Therefore, even when being rejected, I can't go home either. Though Guangmu appeared stern, he was soft-hearted. However, there was still some misunderstanding. What kind of parents are they? Even if they have to deceive their child, they want to create a connection with Shaolin Temple. Seeing Zhang Jin still unable to stop crying, Guangmu's thoughts wandered again. For Shaolin Temple to accept him like this is truly cruel. He didn't know how to console him, only giving a stern warning. I don't like seeing boys cry. Then, he ordered him to stop. Hearing Guangmu's strict teacher-like tone, Zhang Jin jumped in surprise, momentarily forgetting to cry. He's already somewhat accepted me staying. Go into the room and change into those clothes. You're staring too much. Zhang Jin, confused, asked, Is there something wrong with my clothes? Guangmu coldly walked ahead, throwing a brief explanation. Bright colors are too distracting in this remote mountain. Zhang Jin looked at himself, scanning his body. Mother chose the simplest set for me. He didn't care, still insisting on his point. Silence and follow me. Seeing Zhang Jin hesitate, Guangmu lost his patience and shouted loudly, Hurry up! Looking at the dry bowl of rice and food, with only greens and beans, Zhang Jin was surprised. Is this really rice? Guangmu didn't bother to comfort him. Your childish temper. We don't use fire in the temple. Cooking food will make you hot-headed. A practitioner must always keep a calm mind. If you keep getting angry, what kind of practice is that? Zhang Jin, who was used to eating well and living comfortably, couldn't easily adapt. Looking at this simple meal, which couldn't be simpler, he felt worried. He wasn't used to wearing rough fabric either, and his whole body felt extremely uncomfortable. He worried about how he would wear this for the next 10 years. The high-quality fabric clothes he wore when he arrived had already been neatly folded in the wardrobe. Guangmu noticed his reaction and understood part of it. He softened a bit, though there was nothing he could do, so he spoke in a gentler tone. "All right, eat it." Guangmu had said that cooking food would make one hot-headed. Zhang Jin held back his frustration, but couldn't help asking, "Master, why do you still get angry, even though you eat like this every day?" He immediately became furious. "When did I get angry with you?" Zhang Jin continued asking relentlessly, with an innocent face. "Earlier, when you scolded that other guy, it's because you hate me. So you gave me this food, right?" Guangmu couldn't immediately refute or argue back, but he stubbornly refused to admit it. "What nonsense are you talking about?" His hand on his knee quietly tightened. "This is the first time I've seen a child act this disrespectfully. Is he provoking me?" Facing Zhang Jin's innocent gaze, which had no malice or calculation, Guangmu couldn't find the words. He kept staring at the boy, realizing that the innocent look was truly a genuine question. The soft sunlight filtered through the window, and Guangmu's voice slowed down. "Food can be eaten without fire. Why bother making a fire? We need to save firewood. Living a simple life, I've come to understand this. At your age, curiosity is always stronger than caring about other people's feelings." Zhang Jin didn't understand much about practicing, thinking that firewood was abundant in the forest. "If you're lazy, I'll go gather some for you. I promised I'll only pick the dry branches, not break any trees." Guangmu lost his patience in an instant. This brat. He found it troublesome to explain further. Just because the dry branches fall doesn't mean they're wasted. Do you understand? They'll decompose into fertilizer to help the trees grow. Zhang Jin quickly understood. "So, I shouldn't take food from the trees, right?" "I hadn't thought of that." Guangmu was taken aback by his innocent thinking, feeling awkward. Zhang Jin, believing he was right, confidently added, "Also, if you keep running around, your clothes will tear. How will you wear them for years?" Guangmu, even as a Zen master, couldn't help feeling irritated. Seeing his reaction, Zhang Jin clearly was changing the subject. His face showed clear dislike for the rough clothes. Guangmu thought deeper. Is this kid rebelling because he got these ragged clothes? Why do I feel like he's bullying me? Finally, he gave in. "Eat your rice in silence. Understand." Zhang Jin, though raised with indulgence, remained polite. It was just that, from a young age, he was always given delicious food, so it was understandable that he didn't enjoy this meal. Not only that, but he was still hungry and couldn't ask for more. Because Guangmu believed, being full makes one lazy, and laziness is a fault in practice. That night, when the moon had risen high and everything had fallen into sleep, Zhang Jin's groaning from pain woke Guangmu. Zhang Jin had gone to the outhouse, but had a stomachache, his body trembling, his hand gripping a straw. His whole body was drenched in cold sweat from the pain. Suddenly, he felt such pain that his eyes bulged. Zhang Jin's coughing woke Guangmu, but he didn't seem annoyed. He laughed happily when his plan succeeded. Eating raw food isn't easy. Guangmu thought back to the meal earlier, where Zhang Jin had eaten it with pride. "I can't feed you luxurious food. You have to get used to it. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear it." "I can't bear it. It'd be better if I went down the mountain." Time passed, and Zhang Jin still hadn't adjusted to raw food and kept complaining. "For half a month now, every time I eat, I get a stomachache. Maybe I should go look for some fruit again." In just half a month, Zhang Jin had almost lost the appearance of the pampered young master who ate well and lived comfortably. Earlier, Guangmu suddenly appeared. "Where did you go yesterday?" Zhang Jin hurriedly stood up to greet him, feeling moved and thinking, "Is the master worried that I might be attacked by a beast or eat a poisonous fruit?" Seeing the scratches and blood on his hands, and the red spots on his shoes and feet, Guangmu was taken aback. He was worried, but the comforting words he meant to say turned into reprimands. "Running around everywhere. What if you tear your clothes? You'll need new shoes too." Zhang Jin explained that he was hungry, but Guangmu remained stubborn. "You've eaten 3 meals and are still hungry. Running around is what made you hungry." Zhang Jin tried to explain. It's too little, and it causes a stomachache after eating. Guang Mu began his lecture. A stomachache is because you're not hungry enough. A person can live on anything. If you think you can live on grass and trees, you will. If you think you can't, then you won't. Zhang Jin muttered softly. But what if it's too hard? Guang Mu was still strict. Worship Buddha statues. Offer Buddha's offerings. Creating good karma is harder than creating bad karma. Asceticism is the path of practice. Although difficult, it accumulates much merit. Zhang Jin became more confused the more he listened. Master, this is too confusing. I'm almost starving to death. Seeing his indifferent attitude, Zhang Jin realized the current situation. The master didn't want to help him. Zhang Jin, anxious, kept thinking about his small stomach. What should I do? If this continues, I'll die of hunger. Guang Mu, losing patience, waved his sleeve and walked away. I have things to do. You stay quietly at home. An idea suddenly flashed in Zhang Jin's mind. He looked at the back of Guang Mu and thought to himself, if I just lie down, I won't be hungry anymore, right? All right, from now on, I'll just eat and then lie down. Guang Mu had been observing from behind. Seeing this, he was puzzled and suddenly smiled broadly. What's going on? He didn't think anymore, growing impatient, and warned, remember what I said. He quickly left. The small thatched hut of Guang Mu, the Zen master, remained quiet, as always in the mountains. He stood with his hands clasped in front of the door, looking inside. What met his eyes was the sight of Zhang Jin still sleeping soundly. Seeing that the boy was drooling in his sleep, Guang Mu was extremely displeased. He shouted loudly, "Get up now!" His voice echoed through the small house. Enough playing around. It's noon already. Why are you still lying there? Zhang Jin immediately jolted up. Though he was a little scared of Guang Mu, he stubbornly tried to justify himself. Master told me not to exercise much, but if I don't exercise, I get hungry, so I slept. Hearing this seemingly illogical but convincing reasoning, Guang Mu became so angry that he yelled, laziness and limited movement are two different things. If you just eat and sleep, you're not a person. You're a parasite. Zhang Jin stayed silent, but his gaze said it all. If I'm a parasite, then feed me first before talking. Seeing the boy still stubbornly showing his displeasure, Guang Mu became furious and waved his sleeve, walking away. I truly give up. The door slammed shut, leaving Zhang Jin even more confused, not understanding what he had done wrong. He hugged his clothes and stared up at the ceiling, sighing. What should I do now? Guang Mu, the Zen master, again, as usual, sat and recited sutras on the wooden platform in front of the house. He sat in silence, focusing intently on the Buddhist scriptures, his hand moving along the beads of the rosary. Zhang Jin silently watched him carefully through the small crack in the door. He was curious about what Guang Mu was doing. What's the master doing out there? His hand is moving along the beads. Is he chanting sutras like the other monks? Thinking that, Zhang Jin put on his shoes and went outside to ask, Master, are you chanting sutras? When chanting sutras, you have to strike the wooden fish and chant aloud. I really like listening to the monks chant. Guang Mu, with his profound and unfathomable nature, said, in this deep mountain, whether you chant aloud or strike the wooden fish, what's the difference? He calmly explained to Zhang Jin, you read with your eyes and strike the wooden fish with your heart. Still, Zhang Jin was naive and said whatever came to mind. But it just seems strange no matter how I look at it. Guang Mu, losing patience, frowned and asked, you want me to chant loudly? He subtly hinted that he didn't want to be disturbed by Zhang Jin. If you listen, will I attain enlightenment faster? Chanting aloud and striking the wooden fish only makes me hungrier. It doesn't bring enlightenment. Upon hearing this, Zhang Jin's good impression of Guang Mu decreased further. You're really stingy. Eating too much milk has made you chant without sound. Guang Mu didn't care what he thought, still turning the beads of the rosary. Don't disturb me. Go meditate inside. Zhang Jin heard this and decided not to bother him anymore. He trudged into the house alone, feeling a bit frustrated. He could only grumble to himself, always getting scolded whenever he spoke, always the same thing over and over. Suddenly, his hand, which was closing the door, froze, as if a clever idea had just struck him. Zhang Jin paused his action. A thought flashed in his mind. At least if he followed the master's example, he wouldn't get scolded. And if he did, there would be a reason. With this thought settled, Zhang Jin continued closing the door, silently making a decision. All right, let's wait and see. I've partly grasped the survival tactics here. I'll observe how the master restricts his movements without feeling hungry, and learn from that. The next morning, just as the sun began to rise, a few rays of sunlight were still flickering. Shaolin Temple had already lit the lamps early, and the sounds of the disciples and monks going about their duties reflected the disciplined life there. Some disciples were sweeping, others were bowing to the abbots. At Guangmu's small secluded house in the mountains, it seemed still quiet, but he had already woken up early to neatly fold his blanket. Zhang Jin was also awakened. He watched Guangmu folding his blanket with admiration. What's this? The master is making the bed. In the blink of an eye, when he saw Zhang Jin awake, he was surprised. Why are you up so early today? However, Guangmu didn't pay much attention. Since you're up, quickly make your bed. Zhang Jin obediently followed. He watched Guangmu's figure disappearing and wondered, wow, the master is in such a hurry to go somewhere even though it's not dawn yet. He quickly folded the blanket, his mind occupied by only one thought. I need to follow quickly. Unfortunately, the blanket he folded was quite messy, neither quick nor neat like Guangmu's. Recalling the master's movements, Zhang Jin felt embarrassed. I can't be as swift and neat as the master. This was also a way to restrict movement, but he decided to give up and save the practice for later. Now, it's time to go. He quickly followed Guangmu's direction. The master walked leisurely along the narrow path, his expression calm. At this moment, he truly resembled a Zen master. The tranquil and simple surroundings were disrupted by Zhang Jin's small footsteps, as he hurried behind, ruining the atmosphere. He hid behind a tree, peeking out like a detective, watching the suspected figure. He saw Guangmu begin to step onto a high cliff. His steps were steady, using the rough stones at the bottom of the cliff to gain momentum. Then, Guangmu's figure moved lightly, floating as if he had wings, moving so quickly it was almost impossible to see with the naked eye. Standing firmly on the cliff, he gently landed on the high rock without making any noise. Zhang Jin hid behind and widened his eyes in amazement. What was that just now? He quickly hid behind the tree and thought to himself, climbing up so easily, it really is Shaolin Temple. Suddenly, he saw Guangmu sitting cross-legged on a rock. Zhang Jin was confused, seeing the master meditating here. Does the master start his day like this every day? He decided to imitate every move of Guangmu. All right, I'll do the same. Zhang Jin firmly sat cross-legged, preparing to meditate. Guangmu was too busy to care about him and immediately started meditating. Zhang Jin thought to himself, I will definitely figure out the secret of Guangmu's limited movements to get a full stomach. By now, the sky had fully brightened, and the disciples at Shaolin Temple were diligently practicing martial arts, while the abbots were chanting and reciting the Buddha's name. As for Guangmu and Zhang Jin, the boy realized that the master hadn't moved at all since then. It must have been more than an hour, Zhang Jin thought doubtfully. Could the master be nodding off? He opened one eye to look at him, but the master was still sitting, not sleeping. Suddenly, Zhang Jin's stomach growled loudly, breaking the quiet atmosphere. He was startled by the noise. He didn't want the master to notice, but the sound had already carried far. Guangmu didn't bother to open his eyes or turn his head. He just asked indifferently, Are you opposing me? Zhang Jin jumped in shock from being caught. He quickly denied it. Opposing? No, I'm not. Guangmu continued to scold him. If you're sneaking behind me, you should be quiet. Why make such a noise, disturbing my meditation? Zhang Jin ran in front of the cliff, looking up at him to explain. What can I do, master, if I'm hungry? Guangmu didn't want to argue anymore, sighing in frustration, and opened his eyes. Meditation was no longer peaceful. As soon as he finished speaking, a stream of white energy was inhaled into his body. Zhang Jin saw this scene and was even more confused. What is that white thing coming out of the master's mouth? It comes out of his mouth and then goes back into his nose. Seeing the curious look on the boy's face, Guangmu felt a bit helpless, realizing that all children were the same. He looked down at Zhang Jin, who was staring at him with curiosity, but he thought, "I'm not your teacher to explain every little thing." Before he could refuse, he met Zhang Jin's innocent, bright eyes. Guangmu, still softened, sighed and said, "Fine. I won't teach you my mental techniques, but cultivating isn't really a secret." He patiently began explaining to Zhang Jin, "The mental technique I'm practicing is a martial arts internal skill, passed down to only a few people in Shaolin, called Yi Jin Jing." Guangmu, who was quite knowledgeable about the mental techniques, explained in a way that was easy to understand. "What you saw is energy, the origin and law of all things." Since Zhang Jin was still young, he couldn't fully grasp it, and he naively guessed, "Is energy like smoke from a cigarette?" Guangmu looked up at the deep, unpredictable sky and spoke philosophically. "Energy exists everywhere in the world. Absorbing energy into your body will make you strong and full of vitality." At this moment, Zhang Jin quickly realized. So that's why the master doesn't feel hungry. He's eating energy. Guangmu had already explained and continued with more details. When you become proficient, you can absorb energy with your whole body. The energy that accumulates in your body is the internal power of martial artists. Zhang Jin eagerly nodded in agreement. "I see." But in his mind, the only thought was eating energy to avoid hunger. He made a firm decision and set a new goal. "I must secretly practice eating energy too. One day, I'll be proud to tell the master that I'm not hungry anymore." Guangmu coughed lightly, bringing Zhang Jin's attention back to him. "I'm clearly soft-hearted, but still, I won't give in. You can sit next to me when I practice in the morning, but you mustn't disturb me, understand?" Zhang Jin, having learned the secret to survival against hunger, obediently replied, "Yes." Then he went back to his previous spot. Guangmu's gaze continued to follow the little figure of Zhang Jin as it moved further away. "Are you done asking questions? Do you feel like I haven't explained enough? I was planning to teach you the immortality technique if you ask more." At this moment, Zhang Jin had grasped the secret to surviving hunger as if he had found treasure. He seriously pondered, clenching his small fist tightly with thought. "How can I eat the energy in the air?" Zhang Jin sat up straight. He meditated seriously, setting a goal for himself. "I must learn to eat energy." The light shone down from the mountaintop onto where Guangmu was meditating. After a while, he lifted his head and exhaled a sigh. "That's enough for today." Guangmu slowly used his hand to support his knee and stood up. He looked toward Zhang Jin, still sitting cross-legged behind a tree, unmoving. Guangmu didn't speak, but silently evaluated him. Not bad. A child who has just started learning to sit in full lotus, not even lasting a quarter of an hour before he can't bear it. Zhang Jin was breathing evenly, trying to focus, but his legs were still trembling. Guangmu smiled to himself, judging, "You seem very persistent." He led the shivering Zhang Jin toward a house deep in the forest. Zhang Jin struggled to walk, but was still in awe. How come the master seems fine, not feeling his legs at all? Zhang Jin's mouth hung open at Guangmu's way of walking. Moreover, the master walked slowly, but it seemed as if he was gliding. Although Guangmu appeared to walk slowly, there was still a sense that he was gliding smoothly. Zhang Jin suddenly thought, "Is he a ghost?" His face turned pale, drained of color. Guangmu saw him walking slowly and urged, "Walk faster, don't be lazy. Come on, follow me." Seeing Guangmu's strange way of walking, Zhang Jin instinctively stopped and observed. He looked at the master's shoulders. The master walks almost without moving his shoulders, and his arms don't swing. Then, he looked down at the master's feet. Quick, his feet glide lightly over the ground. Zhang Jin suddenly realized. So that's how it is. The master restricts movement to avoid hunger. At this moment, all he felt was admiration and respect. Impressive. The master walks this way, without using any effort. The two of them quickly reached the thatched house with straw tiles. The two of them ate together. Zhang Jin ate while watching Guang Mu. He hadn't paid attention before, but now he realized that Guang Mu continued eating without noticing Zhang Jin's small actions. He looked at Guang Mu's bowl with surprise, noticing that his every movement was extremely neat, without any waste. It was completely different from the servants in the house, who were always busy, as if the master had already planned everything before moving. Guang Mu now noticed that Zhang Jin wasn't eating, but was lost in thought, so he sternly corrected him, causing Zhang Jin to feel embarrassed. Listen carefully. When eating, focus on eating. Zhang Jin obediently followed his master's instructions and focused on eating. Guang Mu guessed that the little boy had been following him since early morning, observing his every move. Could he be trying to imitate me? After finishing eating, Guang Mu placed a book on the table to read. Zhang Jin also imitated him, taking the same book, sighing inwardly and feeling helpless. Now it's out in the open. What is he thinking? Guang Mu cleared his throat softly and asked Zhang Jin, "Are you reading the classics of sages? The book you're holding is the 4 books and 5 classics. It's not too difficult, but an 8-year-old can't read it by themselves." Zhang Jin looked up. "I've finished reading 1,000-character classic, and I'm in the middle of studying the Analects and Mencius. As the master said, this classic is too difficult. I can't read it." Guang Mu fell silent before responding. "You're not a Buddhist and have no intention of converting, so there's no need to read Buddhist scriptures." Zhang Jin quickly responded, "Yes, master." Guang Mu didn't fully believe what he said and clearly responded. He raised an eyebrow and then remembered that there was nothing else to read. Guang Mu sighed inwardly. "This is troublesome. I'll have to find some books from the 4 books and 5 classics for him to read." But then he thought, "No. Why should I do that? When will he get bored and leave the mountain?" After some time reading, Zhang Jin reluctantly put the book away, his legs trembling from numbness. He placed his hand on his stomach, feeling it. "But I guess not running around helps me feel less hungry." Zhang Jin suddenly remembered and looked outside, asking Guang Mu, "Master, are you resting now?" Zhang Jin opened his eyes wide, surprised and confused. "Huh, what's he doing now?" He went outside to the yard and saw Guang Mu standing in a practicing posture. He had his hands clasped, focused, his eyes closed, and he was breathing deeply and evenly. Guang Mu raised his right hand high, gently gliding it up, then lowered his left hand smoothly. Zhang Jin saw this and immediately followed suit. Guang Mu opened his eyes, seemingly noticing him. He stared in surprise. "This too. Now I understand. He has nothing else to do, so he's just imitating me all day." Zhang Jin smiled brightly, happily following along, watching Guang Mu's movements closely. Guang Mu silently allowed him to try. "Let's see." Then, Guang Mu transitioned into another movement, both guarding his stance and making a gentle strike. Zhang Jin was flustered, his arms and legs awkward. He then transitioned into a more complicated movement, lighter than the previous one. Zhang Jin bit his lip, frozen in place. "I didn't expect this move to be harder than the previous one." He flustered, his arms and legs flailing in the air, his face panicking. Zhang Jin was still struggling with the movement, realizing, "The master's movements are too slow for me to imitate." He lost his balance, panicked, and fell backward, unable to catch himself. Zhang Jin fell to the ground with a thud, his arms and legs up in the air. He cried out in pain. Guang Mu didn't help him up, but silently laughed. "It's not that easy. The body conditioning exercises can't be learned by imitation alone." He ignored him and continued his practice. "You must practice the Yi Jin Jing to a certain level before you can train properly." In the middle of the forest, only the sound of Zhang Jin's heavy breathing could be heard. Zhang Jin then complained. "Master said that a lot of exercise will make you hungry." Guang Mu responded, "Physical training isn't useless. Without exercise, the body becomes sluggish." He explained further. "Exercise helps the circulation of energy and keeps the body healthy." Zhang Jin asked again. "Then why does Master move so slowly?" "I can't imitate it." But Guang Mu only smiled inwardly. "You can't surpass me. Although you're trying hard, I can't teach you Shaolin martial arts." Guang Mu moved into another posture, more difficult than the previous ones. The hand movements were like scratching a cat's chest. He stepped forward, explaining further. I'm not just moving slowly. I'm also focusing my mind and reflecting on my body. The slower I move, the easier it is to observe what's inside. Zhang Jin didn't quite understand this. Observe the inside of the body. Guangmu nodded. Observe which muscles are working when you step, how your arms move, and how your breathing is. Zhang Jin raised an eyebrow, looking confused, and asked him again. But why should I observe it? Guangmu didn't immediately respond, but silently thought to himself, You ask so many questions. He stopped his movements and finished the practice, leaving Zhang Jin astonished. Guangmu explained, The human body is very complex. Hundreds of bones, thousands of blood vessels, muscles, and the 8 extraordinary meridians, all intertwined. Zhang Jin touched his stomach. Those things move inside the body. No wonder everything moves in the body. That's probably why I'm hungry. Guangmu calmly continued. Think about it. How can you use the least effort and achieve the highest efficiency? He turned and left a reminder. Eliminate unnecessary movements and focus your strength on the necessary parts. Guangmu calmly took slow steps back into the house. His body seemed to glide, allowing him to do more with less effort. Hearing this, Zhang Jin suddenly remembered. Less effort, more efficiency. This is what my father always says. He recalled Zhang Dao's words. A merchant must invest little, but gain much. That's what makes a merchant. Zhang Jin silently affirmed. Both of them say the same thing. This can't be a coincidence. After finishing, Guangmu sighed inwardly. Suddenly, I feel much lighter. Zhang Jin spoke loudly with determination and certainty. Although I don't know how to do it yet, I will try my best. Guangmu didn't expect the boy to be so stubborn, still not crying and asking to go down the mountain despite everything. Zhang Jin practiced, but still fell over and over. Guangmu thought to himself, seeing him try so hard, if he asks to go down the mountain, I'll secretly teach him some martial arts moves, and then send him back. At Shaolin Temple, on Mount Song, the scene was very peaceful. Red maple leaves were flying everywhere. In this vast place, a young monk stood in front of the grain storage. The young monk held a ledger, inspecting it several times, confused, and scratched his head. Strange. The figures in the ledger match the amount of grain. But why is it so little this year? Clearly, we received more rice last year. The young monk beside him added, I heard that there were more pilgrims this summer, but the donations were less. The young monk looked worried. But the rice donations from the lay disciples should be coming soon. The other monk replied, This year, the donation is only half of last year's. The young monk was puzzled. Huh? What's going on? The other monk's voice lowered. I heard their situation isn't very good. The young monk's face tightened, and his mood darkened. Expenses in other places are rising too. It's really worrying. He looked at the pile of grain in the warehouse and sighed. Next year will surely be very difficult. The young monk didn't understand. It was so strange, like water leaking from a cracked jar. Money seemed to just disappear. Meanwhile, at Guangmu's house, the snow had covered the roof. Guangmu was still sitting, reading scriptures, his hand holding a string of prayer beads, while Zhang Jin lay curled up in a thin, cold blanket. He shivered in the thin blanket, his eyes barely open. This winter is so cold. Zhang Jin remembered how it used to be at home, where it was so hot he'd sweat. It was really too much. He secretly glanced at Guangmu, thinking to himself, It's so cold, and he doesn't light a fire in the room, nor does he give me a thick winter coat. Only now did Guangmu notice that Zhang Jin was shivering beside him. Guangmu silently wondered. He's not asking to leave the mountain despite the cold, and no fire in the room. Why is he so quiet? Zhang Jin sneezed a few times. Guangmu started to worry. This is bad. If I leave him like this, the child might die. Without hesitation, he put the prayer beads on the table, then used one hand to support the floor and the other to support his knee to stand up. Guangmu quickly ran outside to check the stove. It hasn't been used for a while, and with the weather getting colder, Zhang Jin's body is shaking more and more. His mouth is cracked, and he's starting to babble. Mother, I'll study hard, Don't leave me." Outside, the snow kept falling against the walls of the house. The stove was now working, and the flames blazed fiercely, like a drum defying the cold snowstorm. Guangmu brought a wet cloth to care for Zhang Jin. In his heart, Guangmu felt a bit resentful, thinking back to how it was all Venerable Abbot's fault. Knowing his temperament, yet still entrusting the child to him, and even a troublesome one at that. Zhang Jin's face was as pale as death, and he was coughing heavily. Guangmu was also worried. Yet it was strange. The room was warm, but the cough worsened, and the fever didn't subside. Should I go to Benshan and get some medicine? No. They'll surely ask why I haven't taken proper care of the child. However, after observing Zhang Jin's condition for a while, Guangmu hesitated. But if left like this, Zhang Jin's fever would not subside, and the coughing would only increase. Moreover, in his feverish delirium, he started calling for his mother. Guangmu saw that the situation was critical. "You troublesome child, making me go through all this." He quickly pulled off the thin blanket, firm and decisive. Guangmu hurriedly removed the shirt Zhang Jin was wearing, soaked in sweat. He had Zhang Jin sit up, his back to him, and instructed him, "Stay awake, don't move." Zhang Jin, as though in deep pain, grew increasingly pale. Guangmu placed both hands on his back, silently deciding that for now, he would have to transfer his internal energy to him. He began to channel his energy, focusing his mind completely, gathering all his strength in one place. Guangmu knew well that losing his internal energy meant losing several years of cultivation. His internal energy started transferring to Zhang Jin, focusing mainly on his abdomen. This energy radiated a white light, spreading across the room. Guangmu adjusted himself. Since he hasn't learned the internal energy meditation technique, the acupoints aren't fully unblocked, so I can't use energy flow to clear the meridians. I can only use external force to open the acupoints. Guangmu pressed his hands more firmly on Zhang Jin's back, transferring more energy. He also tried his best. If he could impart 10 years of internal energy from the Yi Jinjing, even an ordinary person would be as strong as someone taking a medicinal tonic from Shaolin. Zhang Jin, receiving such a large amount of internal energy, cried out in pain, forcing himself to sit upright, the power enveloping both of them. Guangmu exhaled, the problem being that later it would be difficult for him to cultivate other internal energy techniques. He pressed harder on Zhang Jin's back, transmitting more energy, thinking to himself, "You brought this upon yourself, don't blame me." Receiving such a massive amount of strength, Zhang Jin was already in pain, which only worsened. His screams cut through the howling winds of the snowstorm. Night began to fall, but the snow kept falling, though it was less intense than during the day. Guangmu sat watching over Zhang Jin, thinking that at least for the next few decades, he wouldn't fall ill. Even if severely sick or injured, he would recover faster than ordinary people, and his body would be stronger. Guangmu looked at him, a tinge of regret, thinking how his 10 years of cultivation had gone down the drain. He bit his lip, pretending nothing happened. "Anyway, I had no intention of practicing martial arts. Saving a life is still worth it." Guangmu gently placed his hand on Zhang Jin's forehead to check if his fever had subsided. Then, he took Zhang Jin's wrist to check his pulse and health. Guangmu fell into deep thought. All this time, he had neglected him, and now seeing how much thinner he was. When he first came up the mountain, he was so chubby, such a child. Why did he have to endure all this? He suddenly realized that he had been worrying about unnecessary things. Guangmu snorted coldly. "I've renounced worldly affairs to focus on my cultivation. How did I end up feeling pity like this?" He looked at Zhang Jin, sleeping peacefully, his face no longer in pain as before. Guangmu reflected. Getting older makes one soft-hearted. Now I understand why my master sacrificed his life for his disciple. He turned his face away, maintaining a calm expression. If someone else had taken care of him, they would have pampered him. Guangmu sat down, his hands clasped together, and began reciting the Buddhist scriptures. He told himself, "I must understand the suffering of all beings to eliminate my own afflictions." Is this the path of enlightenment that the Buddha taught? Guangmu started to focus on chanting, seeking deeper understanding and clarity. Zhang Jin still lay there, not yet awake, but his face had relaxed more than before. 3 days later, in the morning, the snow had stopped falling, and a small portion had melted away. Inside the house, Zhang Jin's voice rang out. "Master, are you back?" Guangmu saw that he had woken up and casually asked, "You're awake already?" Zhang Jin eagerly asked him, "How long did I sleep?" "I feel so much better now. My cold is gone." He rubbed his body, unable to hide his joy, feeling refreshed and with a clearer mind. Guangmu stared blankly, thinking to himself, if it doesn't remember anything, why bother? It's still young. It can't yet recognize the changes in its body. Zhang Jin felt stronger after the fever, and a look of joy appeared in his eyes. The snow still lightly covered the tree branches, with a misty haze surrounding everything. Guangmu and Zhang Jin each meditated in a different corner on the stones. Zhang Jin felt delighted. How strange. Even though the morning air is so cold, I don't feel cold at all. Before, the cold was too much, and I couldn't focus. But today, I should be able to do it. I will absorb a lot of energy. Guangmu noticed that he was practicing, thinking to himself, this child hasn't been burdened by many distractions. When I unblocked his acupoints, most of them were opened. Though it's called unblocking acupoints, in reality, he was immersed in a stream of pure energy, something others would need to spend a fortune for. Zhang Jin continued to practice meditation, unaware of his watchful gaze. I've unintentionally created an opportunity for him, Guangmu thought. Zhang Jin took a deep breath. A cold stream of air entered his nose, and then he exhaled slowly and lightly through his mouth. In his mind, Zhang Jin muttered, "Place your hands on your knees, palms facing upwards. Breathe in slowly through the nose." He did this while remembering, exhale through the mouth in 8 counts. Inhale very slowly. The two continued their separate practices until the sun had risen slightly. Guangmu thought repeatedly, if I taught him martial arts now, he could become a master. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but decided against it, calming himself. Guangmu adjusted his own energy and focused on his meditation. A few days later, at their usual practice spot, Zhang Jin was meditating alone when suddenly, his stomach gave a sharp pang, repeatedly, leaving him confused. Zhang Jin looked down at his stomach in surprise. Why do I feel a sharp sensation in my nose and stomach when I inhale? My stomach can feel the flow of energy within it. Is this the sensation of absorbing energy? Zhang Jin inhaled deeply, pleased, secretly laughing to himself, mimicking his teacher. It really works. He slowly absorbed the energy, savoring it contentedly. I can absorb energy now. I'm full. The sun peeked through, casting light on Guangmu, who was standing on the high stone, watching Zhang Jin with curiosity. Why does he look so happy? Today, when practicing, I felt several strange energies. Guangmu made a guess, then fell silent again. Could he have learned to regulate his breath? He immediately jumped down. No way. How could he do this without ever learning? It must be because the internal energy from the Yi Jinjing has spread through his body, making him more sensitive to energy. As soon as he landed, Guangmu felt a heavy sensation in his body, displaying a confused expression. Guangmu stood there, looking at his own hand. My body feels so heavy. This is so unfamiliar. He clicked his tongue. This mess I'm in is all because of this kid. How unlucky. Guangmu pretended nothing had happened and walked past Zhang Jin. Well, time to head down the mountain. Zhang Jin suddenly realized and called out to Guangmu, "Wait a moment." Guangmu gritted his teeth, and Zhang Jin, afraid that he might be abandoned, showed a fearful expression. Still walking slowly, Guangmu continued, and Zhang Jin hurriedly ran after him. They returned to Guangmu's straw-roofed house, now cleared of snow. Zhang Jin practiced outside, silently rejoicing, "This is amazing. So this is what it's like to observe the energy inside my body." He practiced, raising his hand high, feeling each hair move in the wind. Guangmu thought to himself, he seems different today. It must be because the Yi Jinjing's energy is spreading through his body. Guangmu explained, the Yi Jinjing helps improve tendons and bones, which is suitable for martial arts training. If you practice the Yi Jinjing and then learn Shaolin martial arts, Your body will become stronger and tougher. But you're not practicing martial arts, so there's no need to push yourself like that. Zhang Jin happily responded, as long as I'm not hungry, it's fine. Zhang Jin smiled innocently, for his wishes were simple. Guang Mu was quite surprised. This kid is practicing just so he doesn't go hungry. With that kind of will, the Yi Jinjing will definitely work. At this rate, it might even change his physical constitution. Guang Mu thought to himself, his expression turning serious, secretly observing Zhang Jin. The next day, the air was still cold, but fresher. In the mountains, somewhere deep in the forest, flowers bloomed, attracting butterflies. Meanwhile, Guang Mu and Zhang Jin sat on the bed outside, reading books. Zhang Jin then went out to the garden, his hands a bit dirty as he pulled up some vegetables, and then he went to pick the ripe mulberries from the neighboring garden. Zhang Jin happily ate the two things he had just picked. As the season passed, the leaves dried and fell. The two of them continued to sit and read books outside, and then Zhang Jin resumed practicing the martial arts he had learned over time. He diligently moved from one move to another, without giving up. By the end of the snowy winter days, the two continued to meditate. Zhang Jin's lips moved, no longer because of the cold like before, but because he was absorbing the surrounding energy and balancing his body, calmly continuing his practice. Zhang Jin opened his eyes happily, smiling at the small results he had achieved. The white snow still fell day after day, covering the mountain. As spring arrived, the sun came out, making the trees lush and growing wildly. 3 years later, Jin Wu suddenly appeared in front of Shaolin Temple. He stood in front of the entrance to Shaolin Temple, feeling a bit excited, wondering how the boy was doing. Two young monks greeted him and invited him in. "Master, what brings you here?" Jin Wu bowed. "I came to visit an old friend." The young monk asked, "What is the Dharma name of your friend?" Jin Wu replied, "His Dharma name is Guang Yun." The two young monks were taken aback, thinking, "An old friend of the abbot, so he's no ordinary guest." The two quickly said, "Please follow us. We will notify someone." Meanwhile, they continued to guide the master. The first young monk opened the door, while the other pointed the way inside. Jin Wu took slow, deliberate steps up the stairs to the door. He followed the two young monks, neither fast nor slow. As they walked, Jin Wu looked up at something above. When he saw it, he was surprised, staring at it. Jin Wu asked the young monk, "Why is the stupa left in such disrepair? Why aren't these stupas being repaired?" The young monk bowed his head and explained, "It's not that they haven't been repaired, but they've been repaired many times already." Jin Wu exclaimed, "What do you mean?" The young monk continued in a sad tone, "The economy of Shaolin Temple is in great difficulty." The two young monks led Jin Wu inside to meet Guang Yun. He also said to Jin Wu, "These days, Shaolin Temple is struggling. Normally, we would offer guests fine tea, but we save the best tea for the pilgrims, so we must drink this low-quality tea." Guang Yun looked into the teacup, his gaze dull and sorrowful. "And this tea is almost finished." Jin Wu widened his eyes, surprised and speechless, staring at Guang Yun. In his heart, he was worried. Why did Guang Yun look so worn out? Moreover, even when Guang Yun was poor, he had never hesitated to offer good tea. Jin Wu recalled the stupa earlier and asked, "So the reason the temples and stupas aren't being repaired is because of him?" At this point, Guang Yun sighed lightly, blowing out the warm air from his teacup. He set the cup down. "The thing is, we've repaired them time and time again, but it keeps collapsing here and there. We can't keep up anymore." Jin Wu grunted unexpectedly upon hearing this. Guang Yun added, "The outer areas are being repaired because there are many pilgrims, but the inner parts have been nearly abandoned for 3 years." Jin Wu opened his eyes wide upon hearing this, his heart recognizing something. 3 years. Yes, could it be? Guang Yun led Jin Wu for a walk around Shaolin Temple. Jin Wu thought to himself, "It's been 3 years since I brought Zhang Jin here, but even if the child's destiny is flawed, so what? Shaolin Temple, the #1 temple in the world, wouldn't decline, right? It's not like he's formally entered the school, he's just staying here. How could Shaolin Temple be in decline?" He stole a glance at Guang Yun beside him, then reassured himself. The two walked around, but didn't speak much, and the atmosphere was rather quiet. Jin Wu finally spoke. Is there anything I can do to help? Though monks should not discuss money matters, if we need funds, I will ask Hui Vian too for help. Guang Yun, though grateful, politely declined. He explained, the temple has its seasons. We don't need to worry about food and basic needs. Jin Wu was struck by this, his face paling as he heard it. He pursed his lips, speechless, but his heart was boiling with anger. Is it about a profitable harvest? Isn't this the omen in the child's fate? Everything goes smoothly, but the expenses are higher, like pouring water into a leaky vessel. Jin Wu turned and began walking away, saying, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Guang Yun was confused. You're leaving already. Jin Wu responded briefly, No, I'm going to the Buddha Hall. Guang Yun still didn't understand. What do you need to do in the Buddha Hall? Jin Wu answered seriously, What else can I do but pray for the welfare of Shaolin Temple? Guang Yun was surprised, leaning back. Why would you pray for the welfare of Shaolin Temple? Jin Wu didn't reply, his face slightly furrowed, and in his heart, he blamed himself. I feel that it's all my fault. My heart is heavy. I can't just leave like this. Guang Yun tried to stop him. You're not young anymore. How can I let you struggle at another temple? I accept your kindness, but... Jin Wu remained determined to leave. He stood and silently watched Jin Wu leave, unable to understand, muttering to himself, Why is it like this all of a sudden? Jin Wu arrived at the Buddha Hall, a quiet, clean, and spacious place. He bowed his head and prepared to kowtow before the statue of the Buddha. Jin Wu had many thoughts in his heart. Even if there is a flawed destiny, it shouldn't be enough to make Shaolin Temple collapse, should it? He bowed for a long time, with full sincerity. After a while, Jin Wu slowly pulled his legs back, preparing to stand up. He bowed his head, leaving the statue of the Buddha behind, reassuring himself, it must just be a coincidence. The face of the Buddha statue seemed to be cast in a way that it could understand everything. Jin Wu repeated the same worshipping movements several times. After a while, he went back to Guang Yun. He rushed out, asking anxiously, You're back again. It's been so many years. At this rate, you'll exhaust yourself. You need to take care of your health. You're no longer young enough to endure 10,000 kowtows. Jin Wu remained silent, not paying attention to those words. He asked about something else. Has the situation improved any this year? Guang Yun firmly replied, It hasn't, but it has nothing to do with you. Jin Wu pressed his palms together. Namo Amitabha Buddha. In his heart, all there was a deep sigh. It's been 5 years, and it's because I didn't have enough sincerity. Jin Wu stepped past Guang Yun to go inside. Well, I'm leaving. Guang Yun wanted to stop him, but couldn't do anything. He could only stand there and sigh with the 2 young monks beside him, helpless. One of the young monks sighed. But thanks to Master Jin Wu, the atmosphere in the temple has changed a lot. Several young monks have volunteered to kowtow 10,000 times together. Guang Yun looked at Jin Wu and sighed, his gaze deep with gratitude. He turned to the 2 young monks. We've had many friends visiting, so we must also try harder. Next year, we won't let our friends have to come again. The 2 young monks responded in unison. Agreed. Quickly, at this moment, in the forest near Guang Mu's house, his voice unexpectedly rang out. What is this? Annoyed, he furrowed his brow, showing a confused expression. Zhang Jin, now looking more mature and composed than before, stood there. Guang Mu looked at the table of food, hesitating. What is this? Zhang Jin wondered. It's breakfast. Guang Mu stared at each dish, contemplating. It looks no different from any other day. He was even more worried now, but the chopsticks and bowls were arranged so neatly, it was almost eerie. Guang Mu looked at the vegetables arranged on the tray, as well as the food in the bowl. He hesitated for a moment, and then pointed at the plate of vegetables, asking, What is this? Zhang Jin didn't notice anything unusual, and answered naturally, It's purslane. I picked it from the garden. Guang Mu angrily shouted, What? I'm asking, why are you... Oh no, why are you so meticulous? Zhang Jin remained silent, then looked at the plate of vegetables he had arranged and replied naturally, "I thought it looks more appetizing like this. I just removed the inedible parts and the ones with worms." Guang Mu snorted, "Well, it's a talent. Even the rice has to be arranged neatly." "Are you that idle?" Zhang Jin explained, "It's just a little finesse. It's more convenient this way." Guang Mu then questioned, "No wonder it's hard to digest these days. Everything looks so orderly. How can you even eat it?" Zhang Jin retorted, "It looks more natural this way. Master has said so too." He rambled on a lot, causing Guang Mu to have a headache. "Here we go again. From the first time we met, you've always said strange things." After a short time, hearing Zhang Jin talk too much, Guang Mu extended his hand as if conceding. "Just eat," he mumbled, picking up his bowl of rice. "I don't want to argue with you today." Zhang Jin also stayed silent and began eating, but he smiled quite contentedly after the meal. Guang Mu stood outside, looking up and contemplating. In his heart, he felt uneasy without understanding. This is strange. What is happening? Perhaps it's because Shaolin Temple is facing financial difficulties lately, so that's why there's turmoil in the temple. No. Yes, the forest was quiet, but there were only the frantic footsteps of Guang Mu. He kept walking back and forth in the yard. Why do I have two inexplicable, uneasy feelings in my head? Guang Mu continued to think. Everything seems the same every day. Why do I feel so uneasy? His face darkened, growing increasingly tense. He sighed deeply. Guang Mu stopped in front of his house, feeling more and more uncomfortable. This is suffocating. What is this feeling? Zhang Jin quietly watched Guang Mu standing in the yard with a questioning look. He also didn't understand what was going on, muttering, "Master, what's wrong? Is something troubling you?" Guang Mu entered the room and saw the bookshelf neatly arranged. Even the bedding was perfectly arranged, without a single wrinkle. He then realized, no wonder I've been feeling uncomfortable. This kid is trying to drive me to my death. Guang Mu stood still, finally finding the cause. Now I see. It's not neatness, but sickness. He cast a tense glance toward Zhang Jin outside. Guang Mu had to squint to look through the crack of the open door and saw Zhang Jin happily sweeping the leaves in the yard. Lately, Zhang Jin's behavior was very odd. We've been living together for 7 years, and I've never seen him lazy. He's definitely going to make something big happen. While Guang Mu was sitting in the garden picking vegetables, he noticed quick footsteps. He sensed it, stopped his work, looked up, and turned to see what was happening. Guang Mu saw Zhang Jin moving swiftly and lightly while sweeping the leaves. He was surprised. What kind of footwork is that? In his heart, Guang Mu couldn't help but be amazed and observed him in detail. His feet glided lightly on the ground, his shoulders barely moving. Though a bit clumsy, overall it was neat, without any unnecessary movements. I know he's imitating my footwork, but I don't know when it became like this. The Buddha's shadow divine footwork requires internal energy to be performed. Since there was no answer yet, he decided to call Zhang Jin over. He approached and asked, "What's going on, master?" Guang Mu was deep in thought. I never taught Zhang Jin martial arts. If others find out, they'll say he stole Shaolin Temple's martial arts. Guang Mu asked bluntly, "What's with that footwork?" Zhang Jin seemed confused. "My footwork, master." Then he suddenly understood. "Master, you noticed. Finally, I can do it just like you." Surprise appeared in Guang Mu's eyes. He really learned martial arts just by imitating. He remembered before, Zhang Jin didn't even know what internal energy was, so he definitely didn't know martial arts. Guang Mu recalled the days when Zhang Jin had been clueless about martial arts and dismissed those earlier memories. Guang Mu asked him, "Since when?" Zhang Jin asked again, "Since when, master?" He happily explained, "I think I couldn't do it a few days ago, but suddenly today I can. And lately, I haven't been feeling hungry either." Guang Mu didn't believe what he was hearing and immediately asked again. Zhang Jin repeated what Guang Mu had said. "Master already said that. To stop feeling hungry, don't do unnecessary work." He proudly recalled his time training. "I've worked very hard. I've always thought about how to achieve the best results while using the least energy." Guang Mu was amazed and wondered, could this really be true? He then asked, "You mean, you saw me limit movement to avoid hunger, so you imitated it?" Zhang Jin replied, flustered, "No, master." Guangmu didn't know what to say in response to his words. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin was smiling confidently about his accomplishments. Guangmu then extended his hand forward. "Let Zhang Jin give me your hand." A big question mark appeared in his mind as he didn't understand the intention. Zhang Jin extended his hand to Guangmu, wondering, "Master is so strange today. What's with all this checking?" Guangmu took his hand and closed his eyes to focus on sensing the white energy currents around them. The two of them, as Guangmu sensed the white energy currents, began to concentrate more around Zhang Jin. Suddenly, all the white energy gathered at his stomach, causing Guangmu to be startled. He was astonished. "I can't believe it. He has cultivated internal energy just by sensing through the dantian. I know he has at least 20 years of internal energy." Guangmu's mouth hung open. I never taught him breath regulation, and he didn't have time to secretly practice. He looked into Zhang Jin's bright, hopeful eyes, which gave him a headache. Then when did he start cultivating internal energy? Guangmu let go of his hand and recalled, "If he had time, it could only have been when I practiced my cultivation in the morning." He questioned, "How exactly did you regulate your breath?" Zhang Jin answered innocently, "The energy can be consumed as much as you want, since it's everywhere." He recalled the process. "I started by deeply inhaling, then gradually became accustomed to absorbing energy through my mouth." After several attempts, Zhang Jin confidently told Guangmu, "I don't know anything else, but I've absorbed a lot of energy." Guangmu was once again shaken. So for the past 7 years, he's been focusing on that and regulating his breath. At that moment, he remembered 7 years ago when Zhang Jin was sick. Guangmu realized that the internal energy from the Yi Jinjing he had passed on to him had opened up his ability to sense energy through persistent breath regulation. So he had unintentionally cultivated internal energy. Zhang Jin became worried when Guangmu was silent. "Why is Master so tense? Is there something wrong with my body?" Guangmu calmed down. "It's nothing. But what you just performed was the Buddha's Shadow Divine Steps from Shaolin. How did you know how I walk and imitate it?" Zhang Jin described, "Master walks without lifting his shoulders, just on the tips of his toes, and his eyes look far ahead." He not only described it, but also demonstrated, with his feet swiftly gliding, like this. Zhang Jin glided swiftly, lightly like a shadow, causing Guangmu to stare in amazement. He watched as Zhang Jin did it right in front of him, his demeanor calm and steady. Guangmu smiled without smiling, the corners of his mouth barely lifting. After observing for a while, he scrutinized. "Although it looks like Buddha's Shadow Divine Steps, it's different. Buddha's Shadow Divine Steps has steps to avoid and counterattack. But your footwork isn't for offense or defense. It's like moving to the destination with the fewest steps and the fastest speed." Zhang Jin continued to glide enthusiastically, not stopping. Guangmu now felt panicked and sighed. As night fell, the surroundings of the house became quieter. During the day, Zhang Jin had already turned his back to sleep. Guangmu looked at his back, recalling the events from the morning. Perhaps among the second-generation disciples of Shaolin, very few had such body movement. Most second-generation disciples were in their 20s, but Zhang Jin, a child only 15 years old, moved no differently than them. Though unintentional, it seemed that his persistence in practicing body movement and internal energy from the Yi Jinjing had changed his physique. Guangmu prepared to sleep and blew out the candle on the table, but instead of lying down, he immediately looked at Zhang Jin again. Guangmu felt a sense of unease. At this point, there's no problem, but later it will be dangerous. His gaze on Zhang Jin was penetrating, and thoughts kept piling up. Practicing on your own and using internal energy in the wrong way could lead to internal fire and madness. He looked back at himself, wondering whether he should teach him the proper way to regulate his breath. However, I can't teach him Shaolin's martial arts without permission. Guangmu mouthed something, unsure of what he was mumbling, then sighed again. He looked at Zhang Jin, who was sleeping soundly. "If I want to teach him, I must ask Guang Yun for permission." Guangmu sat and thought for a long while, but still didn't know what to do. What should I say? Outside, the moon had risen high, its light shining through the window, as peaceful as Shaolin Temple. The voice of Guang Yun could be heard from the abbot room. Adija Fat. How fortunate. Guang Yun stroked his beard thoughtfully. Not only has the offering money from laypeople returned to normal, but their difficulties are also gradually being resolved. Guang Jing let go of his worries. Finances will stabilize if the offerings keep coming in. His eyes brightened. Although we haven't fully recovered, it's enough to not worry for the near future. Guang Yun breathed a sigh of relief. Expenses have increased, but finances are improving. Now we no longer have the worries of the past few years. It's really great. He ran the beads in his hand, thinking about someone. It was all thanks to the kindness of friend. He had bowed to the Buddha many times. The Buddha did not disappoint friend's sincerity. Adija Fat. Guang Jingthan presented his thoughts. Master Abbot, there shouldn't be any issues this year. I think it's time to discuss with the abbots. Guang Yun asked in surprise. What is there to discuss? He then explained that it was very rare for so many lay disciples to face difficulties at the same time like this. But one must act without hesitation and prepare for similar situations in the future. A contingency plan has been proposed, so we must reduce expenses for aid to accumulate more assets for the temple. The smile on Guang Yun's face disappeared after hearing this suggestion. He firmly rejected it. I understand your intentions, but that's not acceptable. Guang Yun felt heartache for all sentient beings. Even if the offerings are few, we can endure hunger, but if we don't provide aid, people will starve to death. How can we ignore that? Guang Jing had not expected that the situation would lead to such serious consequences. Guang Yun seriously admonished, first, we are monks, then we are martial artists. Even in poverty, there's nothing to be ashamed of. He immediately regretted, Master Abbot, you are right. Please forgive my foolishness. At this moment, he responded kindly to Guang Jing's apology. Of course. Guang Yun thoughtfully reassured, our hearts are all dedicated to Shaolin. How could I blame you? The conversation shifted to another topic. In the deep, remote mountains, Zhang Jin found a resting place and began to eat. Today, I went too far. I used to be afraid of hunger and didn't dare go far. Thanks to the energy, eating alone gives me time to think about other things. While eating, Zhang Jin suddenly thought of Guang Mu. But recently, Master has been a bit strange, hasn't he? Guang Mu tightly shut his eyes, as if trying to calm himself down. He seemed to be speaking less. Zhang Jin guessed, it seems like something is troubling him. If he just spoke directly, I wouldn't have to guess. Another apple became part of his meal. Suddenly, someone approached from behind. What delicious food are you eating? Zhang Jin jumped, turning to look at the mysterious voice. Hong Wu stood with his hands clasped behind his back, observing him. Zhang Jin reflexively screamed and fell to the ground. Who is that? Lao watched as he fell to the ground. Did I startle you? Sorry about that. In his heart, Zhang Jin was a mix of panic and wariness. He looked like a Shaolin monk, but I couldn't sense him approaching. His trembling hands reached out to Hong Wu. He clasped his hands together, bowed low, and said, Greetings, Master. I am Zhang Jin, living with Guang Mu. Hong Wu was slightly surprised when he heard the familiar name and asked, You live with Guang Mu? Zhang Jin was also a bit surprised and keenly realized, could it be that Master knows Guang Mu? Lao had to suppress his answer. Of course I know him. Looking at your loose monk's robes, it's clear you live with Guang Mu. After a while, Hong Wu subtly responded, Actually, I've met you a few times. Zhang Jin shook his head. But I've never met Master before. Lao replied gently, Although you haven't seen me, I've seen you. He revealed Zhang Jin's actions. A few days ago, you were picking wild fruit over there. Upon hearing that, Zhang Jin became nervous. How does Master know? Hong Wu stroked his long beard, proudly explaining, I have my ways. A few days ago, I carefully observed your fruit-picking movements. It's the technique of Dragon Claw hand. But the matter didn't stop there. Your footwork is exactly like Buddha's shadow divine steps. Hong Wu silently assessed Zhang Jin. Your movements look like someone who's been formally trained in martial arts. Did Guangmu teach you? But Guangmu doesn't take disciples, so how is that possible? He suddenly had some doubts and asked, since Guangmu is so difficult to get along with, how have you managed to live with him for 7 years? Zhang Jin seemed to find a way to release his frustration. Does Master know that too? Master is very strict. In the beginning, I was always scolded. He muttered quietly, although I still get scolded now. Lao laughed heartily, showing understanding. Indeed, Guangmu is exactly like that. Zhang Jin now realized he had not recognized this person's identity. But who are you, Master, to call Guangmu by his name? The old man did not hide anything, and introduced himself. My Dharma name is Hongwu. I am the senior brother of Guangyun, the abbot of Shaolin Temple. He also asked a question that had been on his mind for a long time. Are you a disciple of Guangmu? Zhang Jin honestly replied, no, I only live with my master, not as a disciple. Hongwu was confused about a few things. You live with him, but are not his disciple. How strange. But just now, you clearly used the Buddha's shadow divine steps. Zhang Jin hesitated and answered, Master Guangmu also said the same. But I don't know what Buddha's shadow divine steps is. The old man could hardly believe what he just heard. The innocent face of Zhang Jin, with no signs of deception, made him even more troubled. What do you mean you don't know? He then thought of the extraordinary way the master performed. The Buddha's shadow, divine steps, and dragon claw hand were both unique techniques, the ultimate skills of Guangmu. So Zhang Jin must have been afraid that the old man wouldn't believe him, and tried to explain, I really have never learned martial arts from Master Guangmu. Hongwu pondered deeply, not learning, yet still knowing martial arts. Suddenly, he asked the boy to show his hand. Let me see your hand. As soon as Zhang Jin touched it, several waves of energy surrounded him. After thinking more, the old man discovered that Zhang Jin had a powerful energy vortex within his body. His own green energy tried to approach, but could not penetrate. My pure energy is being pushed back. The old man felt a chill of fear. At this age, how could someone have such profound inner power? Zhang Jin was puzzled. And this master too. Why does everyone want to see my hand? He spoke up, snapping the old man out of his thoughts. Master Hongwu. Zhang Jin stammered. Actually, my master said I am very strange, and that I could be in danger. Have I really done something wrong? Hongwu was also somewhat confused in his reply. It could be dangerous, or it could be nothing. Zhang Jin anxiously asked, what does that mean? What should I do? Only 3 more years. The pupils in Hongwu's eyes trembled violently. He was so curious that he forgot his manners and got closer to the boy. What will happen in 3 years? If there's something difficult to say, just tell me. Zhang Jin gradually fell into deep thought upon hearing the answer. Even though Hongwu was more impatient, he still waited for the boy's response. Finally, Zhang Jin had to tell the old man everything. It's because I have bad luck, so I have to live away from home for 10 years. His voice grew smaller as he began to confide. The mountain forests of Lidong witnessed their conversation. After a while, Zhang Jin sighed as he ended his recollection. Hongwu was stunned. So just by imitating Guangmu, you've achieved this level of skill. This boy is really extraordinary. He doesn't have the aura of a martial artist, but can reach this stage on his own. Just teaching him a few simple moves and letting him roam the world would already make him a rising star. Not once in a century, but once in 10,000 years. Finally, Hongwu understood the arrangement. If this is truly your fate, then entrusting you to Guangmu was indeed wise. Master Abbot has great insight. However, Zhang Jin expressed his impatience. But Master said it could be dangerous. So what was the point of enduring all these years? Only 3 more years left. The old man tried to calm his chaotic emotions. You've lived with the difficult Guangmu for 7 years. So what worse could happen? Don't worry. Just relax. Hongwu muttered some incantations. Worry brings illness to the mind, and sorrow brings illness to the body. The Buddha will never forsake the merit you've accumulated. Zhang Jin innocently replied, but I haven't accumulated any merit. Hongwu fell back into his own thoughts. Just living with Guangmu is already accumulating merit. This child is really interesting. How should I take advantage of this opportunity? The old man cautiously advised him. Little one, don't tell Guangmu that you've met me. Let's keep today's meeting a secret. Zhang Jin honestly wanted to refuse. But I can't lie to my master. The old man tried to persuade him. It's not lying. Just don't say you met me. Hongwu briefly explained. I just want to surprise Guangmu. Zhang Jin had no choice but to comply. Yes, I will follow your instructions, master. Hongwu clasped his hands together and quickly took his leave. He performed a bowing gesture. See you again. Adija Fat. Zhang Jin, understanding the etiquette, followed the old man's lead. Travel safely. Adija Fat. Hongwu smiled and waved goodbye to the young boy. Zhang Jin also warmly expressed his friendly attitude. Seeing the old man walking further and further away, Zhang Jin suddenly felt a bit regretful. If he keeps walking like this, he'll probably reach his destination quickly. I should have observed more carefully. Inside Shaolin Temple, the abbot was questioned by someone. Why has martial uncle Hongwu come here? The old man didn't hesitate and went straight to the point. The child of Guangmu knows martial arts, but says he is not a disciple. Guangjing exclaimed in surprise, What? He knows martial arts. Guangyun remained very calm and explained, Living in Shaolin for 7 years, it's not surprising to know a bit of martial arts. Hongwu was somewhat upset and questioned his junior brother Guangyun. Are you conspiring with Guangmu, accepting him as a disciple, and then pretending not to know? Guangyun immediately denied. How could I deceive martial uncle? Hongwu immediately recounted, Then why does that child know Dragon Claw Hand and Buddha's Shadow Divine Steps? The two of them were immediately shaken. What? The ultimate skills of Shaolin. Guangjing loudly interjected, Senior brother Guangyun, if that's the case, this is serious. That child is only being fostered, and yet he's taught the supreme martial arts. Guangyun stroked his beard, thinking of an explanation. He intended to defend Guangmu. Guangmu is not that kind of person, you know that. There must be some reason behind it. Hongwu became more intense. I witnessed it with my own eyes. No need to say more. Quickly call Guangmu here to clarify. Guangyun hesitated. How could this happen? I will investigate. However, he quickly exposed the old man. But did martial uncle come here just to talk about this? If there's something else, just say it directly. Hongwu became uneasy and could only smile wryly. Junior brother Guangyun is indeed very perceptive. He immediately hinted, Actually, I've recently had some insights, so I need the Jade Buddha staff. Guangyun became worried and hesitated, not responding immediately. Instead, Guangjing directly questioned, What? Why does martial uncle need the Jade Buddha staff? Guangyun seriously refused. Senior martial uncle knows the importance of the Jade Buddha staff and cannot take it. Hongwu became tense. This could be related to the future of Shaolin. Junior brother, you're underestimating my insights. What? He immediately threatened the old master. Do you want me to go against the ancestral teachings? Hongwu answered frankly, Yes, I do. Guangyun became even more resolute. Then my opinion remains the same. I won't give it. The expression on the old man's face was full of frustration, while he still maintained an inscrutable demeanor. Guangjing, standing beside, had already guessed. I know why martial uncle wants the Jade Buddha staff now. The truth behind this is very deep. The sect leader has the right to use the Jade Buddha staff to break the rules and break through any restrictions. Martial uncle wants to use the Jade Buddha staff to lift the ban on himself, the ban on taking disciples. Guangjing was certain. Martial uncle wants to accept that child as a disciple. The old man could not suppress his anger. Junior brother, you really refuse to hand over the Jade Buddha staff. Guangyun tried not to be swayed by the words, You're still the same. Since you were young, you liked to provoke others. He had a good impression of the old man's mischievous behavior, always being scolded by their master, but still never giving it up, to the point of being forbidden to take disciples. In the end, Guangyun relented. I can lend it to martial uncle for 2 hours. Guangjing became anxious and wanted him to take back the decision. Guang Yun continued. Just this amount of time won't be considered going against the ancestral teachings. Hong Wu, having achieved his goal, smiled again. All right, I will definitely keep my promise. Guang Jing could only watch helplessly. The events unfolded, and Guang Yun continued chanting, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Hong Wu finally left with a smile on his face. Soon, the sky gradually turned to dawn. Guang Mu was quietly observing Zhang Jin from behind. He tried to suppress his astonishment. His body movement is even more exquisite now. This is unbelievable. Guang Mu frowned. I still can't understand how this kid's movement has improved. I can't figure it out. Moreover, despite the cold wind early in the morning, the boy didn't seem cold at all. The more his steps move, the faster he gets. Guang Mu was slightly puzzled by the unusually happy attitude of the boy today. Zhang Jin honestly replied, In the morning, there is a lot of qi. And what's strange is that no matter how much I eat qi all day, it's never as much as in the morning. He was very surprised. What? You eat qi all day? I thought you were picking wild fruits or playing around, but it turns out you're eating qi. Zhang Jin enthusiastically explained to him, Sitting in meditation allows me to consume more qi, but even without meditation, I can still eat it. I eat qi even while folding blankets or sweeping the yard. Guang Mu hesitated. You mean you're always regulating your breath, even while doing other tasks? Why are you surprised? Doesn't the master do that? Guang Mu thought quietly. Regulating your breath at all times. The amount of qi breathed in would be very small, and if not focused, it wouldn't accumulate qi. He found this almost unimaginable. Regulating breath while working is impossible. No wonder your internal energy is so profound. It turns out you really can do it. Anyway, he decided to teach the boy, Hey kid, the qi must be regulated delicately. Just eating more doesn't make your martial arts better. Zhang Jin honestly countered his words. Guang Mu felt uneasy for a moment at the boy's words and had to switch to another explanation. What I mean is, regulating your breath all the time isn't very effective. Zhang Jin nodded. I know. I can only eat a little qi during the day. And after all, it's just breathing. In his heart, Guang Mu really wanted to shout in protest. He was extremely worried that Zhang Jin's self-practice and improper use of internal energy could lead to internal imbalance or even madness. How did this kid become like this? Guang Mu and Zhang Jin sat on a high rock, meditating quietly. The boy closed his eyes, gradually returning his mind to a state of calm. Guang Mu opened his eyes, astonished at the boy. It had been half an hour, yet his breathing remained steady. The boy sat still, his eyes tightly shut. Perhaps he has already learned to regulate his breath. Guang Mu had known this day would come. It's no longer possible to hide it. Even if I wanted to keep it secret, I can't anymore. He made up his mind to act quickly. That's the best way for the child. There's one important thing to do. I must tell Guang Yun everything quickly. At Hongwu, a small house was situated on a dangerous cliff. In the house, several conversations were heard. The tea is fragrant, isn't it? Try it quickly. The hand holding the teacup came close, but was stopped. Take your hand off. You haven't been allowed to drink yet. Hongwu was displeased and questioned, refusing tea from a senior of Shaolin. Or do you want me to give you something you shouldn't drink? Yun Yanzhang blatantly exposed him. The tea from that old monster shouldn't be drunk recklessly. You like brewing tea with poisonous herbs, don't you? Wen Ximing worriedly looked at the tea in the old man's hand, considering whether he should drink it first to check if it was poisoned. Hongwu raised his eyebrows, looking expectantly. How does this tea, made with Jinhua, taste? The flavor immediately surprised him. Yun Yanzhang asked, Incredible. Does Shaolin Temple also have such poison? Hongwu cheerfully replied, I secretly planted it in the garden. It's easy to make into medicine, but the leaves are poisonous. If you drink it wrong, you'll die. Upon hearing this, the old man panicked. What? Are you planning to make my precious disciple drink that? Hongwu stuck to his reasoning. You have to try it to avoid being poisoned recklessly. Yun Yanzhang gently placed the tea back on the table, reminiscing about the old days when he traveled the Jianghu with him. What I learned the most was about poisons. That guy from Tang family even complained about running out of resources. Hongwu laughed loudly. My poison skills are far better than that guy from Tang family. They were talking about the mysterious figure in the poison industry within Jianghu. Yun Yanjiang pondered. When we were younger, none of us could surpass you in poison skills. But now that guy from Tang family has become the poison immortal. Wen Ming immediately felt a chill run down his spine. The poison immortal is one of the top 10 strongest martial artists in the present day, a leader in the martial world. He anxiously looked at the old man, the poison immortal of Tang clan of Sichuan. Was he weaker than Hongwu in poison skills when he was young? Yun Yanjiang calmed his disciple, surprised. There's nothing surprising about it. He never hid anything about his past. I also lost to Hongwu, with a single move of Plum Blossom Sword. The boy was stunned. I thought the master had never lost to anyone, but he lost to a monk from Shaolin. It wasn't the martial arts of Shaolin, but the Plum Blossom Sword of Huashan. The old man nodded in acknowledgement. That's right, he is truly a genius. There's one thing. I really admire Hongwu. He uses Plum Blossom Sword even better than the disciples of Huashan, and his Tai Chi is even more refined than the disciples of Wudong, and he even uses Swift Sword faster than the Qingcheng Lone Sword. Hongwu suddenly became angry. Why do you keep bringing up the past? Back when the 5 swords of Huashan was still young, you led me into provocations, and now you keep bringing up the past and bothering me. If I fail to achieve the Tao, will you take responsibility? The old man didn't back down, then admit defeat. Are you planning to bring up this bet and die with it? Hongwu angrily slammed the cup. Lose. What? Did you come here just to say that? The old man furrowed his brow, glaring at him with intense anger. Yun Yanjiang just sighed and fell silent. He suddenly switched topics. You should talk to Guang Yun. For Shaolin, for the martial arts world of Zhongyuan, your martial arts must not be lost. He retorted angrily. Have you ever seen martial arts surpassing the teachings of the master? Don't meddle in others' affairs. Yun Yanjiang still tried to persuade him. Then admit defeat. Your only disciple, Guang Mu, hasn't learned martial arts. He's gone. What else is there? You can't even take a disciple, so I win, right? Wen Ming gradually began to understand the situation of the bet. Right? I heard the two of you often disagreed on martial arts and frequently argued. He immediately came to the conclusion of the past story. Therefore, you both decided to each teach a disciple to settle the bet. Under Yun Yanjiang's attack, the pain in Hongwu's heart grew even more irritable. I wish Guangmu wasn't so stubborn. If only he waited a few more years. Yun Yanjiang asked him, A few years. Have you found a good seed yet? Shaolin Temple will help you pass on martial arts. Hongwu repeated firmly, I told you, just wait a few more years. Yun Yanjiang muttered, You don't seem to be joking. I'm really curious to know which child it will be. I wonder if I'll still be alive by then. The old man eagerly responded, 5 years from now, we'll have results. Don't you dare die. Both of them immediately fell silent. Hongwu's hearty laughter suddenly broke the tense atmosphere. Yun Yanjiang frowned, silently thinking about those words, though he was also somewhat confused. Every time I see that smile, I feel trouble. What are you plotting? Guangmu kept pondering, staring at the distant mountains. Not long after what just happened, he hesitated. Looking at that disciple, I was planning to come see you, but Guang Yun also wants to meet you. You told me you would take Zhang Jin down the mountain. His intuition warned Guangmu that something bad would happen. He looked at the boy with worry. Could it be that you know about Zhang Jin already? Even so, he proceeded to announce, Today, I will take you down the mountain. Seeing the boy somewhat surprised, Guangmu immediately instructed, You might meet Guang Yun and the elders, so you must be respectful, understand? By the way, I'll also pick up some scriptures. The expression on the boy's face clearly showed disagreement with this. Guangmu immediately asked, What's wrong? Don't you want to go down the mountain? Zhang Jin lowered his head. I'm afraid I'll be hungry when I go down. He felt somewhat helpless. I really don't know what to say to you. Guangmu reluctantly gave in. Then I'll go to the kitchen and ask for a few mooncakes. Since it's the Mid-Autumn Festival, there should be some leftovers. Just thinking about food made the boy drool with desire. Mooncakes. Zhang Jin immediately gestured to hurry and get going. Guang Mu didn't know how to scold him at that moment. This kid, just for a few mooncakes. Zhang Jin looked very happy, continuously giggling at him. The magnificent natural scenery was incredibly peaceful. Zhang Jin sped down the mountain slope. 7 years ago, I thought I was about to die. Now going down the mountain is as easy as turning my hand. How strange. He was excited. Next time I meet Hongwu, I must ask him to perform again. Guang Mu noticed Zhang Jin was slightly absent-minded, so he became curious. He began to be stunned, realizing the truth. Zhang Jin's movements had clearly become more refined than before. Great Arhat Zen steps. Guang Mu was so surprised that he fell behind the boy by a distance, while the boy became more and more eager. Truly, misfortunes never come singly. It's unbelievable. He was very puzzled. I've never taught him. So how could he have learned lightness skill? Zhang Jin walked while enjoying the feeling of leveling up his ultimate skill. Guang Mu became more and more helpless. It's all because of my senior brother Guang Yun, who entrusted him to me. Shaolin Temple, large and hidden deep within the wild mountains. They had finally arrived at Shaolin Temple. Guang Mu sternly instructed, "When entering the temple, you must be quiet. Don't walk around noisily, and don't make a commotion." Zhang Jin obediently followed. "Yes, don't worry, master," Guang Mu repeated. "Just do that." He suddenly noticed something on the other side. Zhang Jin muttered, when he saw two unfamiliar figures. The two monks joined their palms to greet them. "Adi Jafat." No prior notice. "What's the matter?" Guang Mu coldly responded, "Do I need to give prior notice to come to Shaolin Temple? I'm here to meet senior brother Guang Yun. You can notify him." After saying that, he turned and left. "I'll just drop by for a bit." They hurriedly bowed to Guang Mu. Zhang Jin quietly speculated. It seemed everyone was cautious around Guang Mu the master. They all have their reasons behind their master. He hurriedly caught up. "Yes, but master, where are you going?" They had arrived at the kitchen of Shaolin Temple. Guang Liao unexpectedly came out to greet them. "Good heavens, the sun must be rising from the west tomorrow. My senior brother came to find me again." Guang Mu wondered, "It's been a while since I last saw you, Guang Liao. Are you still working in the kitchen?" He smiled bitterly. "I can't just sit still and watch others work. I get anxious." Zhang Jin looked around in astonishment. Is this the kitchen for the entire Shaolin Temple? Guang Liao scrutinized him. "And who is this child? Has senior brother accepted a disciple?" Guang Mu unhappily answered, "Just look at his head. He's not a disciple. I'm just taking care of him." Guang Liao curiously stepped forward to look at him, excitedly greeting. "Nice to meet you. I'm Guang Liao." The boy obediently replied, "I'm Zhang Jin." Guang Mu turned to give instructions. "I'm going to meet Guang Yun for a bit. You keep an eye on him for me. You can stay here and eat mooncakes. Wait for me for a while." As he turned to leave, Guang Liao mocked, "He's not dead yet, but senior brother is already concerned about someone else." Guang Mu coughed, scolding him before leaving. He mumbled as he watched Guang Mu's back. Seems like senior brother is still the same. Hasn't changed at all. Finally, he remembered the boy, Zhang Jin, right? "Wait here. I'll bring you some mooncakes." The boy's eyes lit up when he heard about the food, so he agreed. 3 delicious mooncakes were quickly brought over. Zhang Jin had already started drooling from hunger. "How long has it been since I had mooncakes?" At home, mooncakes aren't exactly rare. Holding the mooncake in his hand, Zhang Jin couldn't stop marveling. But here, seeing it makes me want to cry with joy. The sound of emotion came from him as he stared at the mooncake in his hand. "I'm so happy I could cry." The long-awaited moment had arrived. The mooncake was slowly bitten into, a feeling that words could not describe spreading through his body. The delicate flavor made Zhang Jin's taste buds melt. The fragrant pumpkin flavor seemed to be spreading in his mouth. Happiness filled all his senses, as if they were being elevated. So this is what sweet seasoning feels like. Zhang Jin remembered the times he had fallen, and the coldness of those days surged back. He cherished the present moment greatly, Having learned so much from his master in 7 years, even something as simple as enjoying a mooncake was worth it. Suddenly, a quarrel interrupted his moment of enjoyment. "What are these useless people burning again?" A hesitant voice answered, "Sorry, master." Zhang Jin became curious and listened intently. Guang Liao was not calming down. "It's almost mealtime, and you've burned all the ingredients. Hand me the ladle. Go wash the ingredients outside." Zhang Jin secretly peeked in to listen. Guang Liao was cooking while scolding others. The young monks hurriedly worked under his direction. The boy leisurely ate while observing them. "The kitchen here looks like a battlefield, and yet my mother told me not to go near the kitchen because it's dangerous." Guang Liao angrily scolded them. "Are you all still this slow? What did you learn martial arts for?" What he said made the boy somewhat surprised. "Do you use martial arts to cook?" But Guang Liao's swordsmanship was indeed swift and unique, with his legs. He was swaying to the rhythm, looking rather odd. Zhang Jin was somewhat puzzled by this strange action and began analyzing every movement of his. The movement seemed excessive, especially the arm. He tried to move in sync with Guang Liao, and eventually Zhang Jin realized that it wasn't just about using the wrist. A young monk was being scolded. "You there! Stop being clumsy! Quickly peel all of these." The boy stammered, "Yes, master." Immediately, the little monk ran off with a basket of apples. He secretly complained, "This master is really too much, making me peel all of this alone before mealtime." Zhang Jin absent-mindedly watched the little monk, wondering when his master would return. "I'm feeling bored. This is perfect." Zhang Jin approached to strike up a conversation. "It seems everyone is busy. Let me help." The boy shook his head, refusing. "No need. This is my job, and it's just peeling radishes." Even so, Zhang Jin still wanted to persuade him. "It's fine. I know how to peel apples too. Let me help you." To convince him, the reason he gave was simple. "If you don't do it quickly, master will scold you." The little monk became scared upon hearing this. "Please, then help me a little." Zhang Jin gently nodded to offer his help. The two, one big and one small, sat down together, peeling apples in harmony. As a result, the pile grew quickly. But when he looked at the object in his hand, Zhang Jin noticed the shape was quite hard to describe. Is peeling apples really this difficult? Looking at the shape of the apples, it was clear the peeler's skill. Why is there only this much left on the apple? The little monk hesitated to teach Zhang Jin. "You should peel it thinly, and it can't be cut through, or else master will scold you." For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. "Why do I feel a little guilty?" The little monk grumbled while peeling the apple with a wooden knife. "This is really too much." Zhang Jin asked, "Why don't you use a steel knife?" The little monk's voice became sad. Master said, "I'm not capable enough to use a steel knife." He sighed with worry. "Today, I'm definitely going to be scolded again." In the end, these two basic things made one think deeply. Zhang Jin stared at the apple. "It's not as easy as I thought. Seems like it needs to be peeled as thinly as possible." At Shaolin Temple, Guang Yun had just seen off the two masters Yun Yanjiang, and Guang Mu was paying close attention to them. He hadn't expected to meet the sword saint here. That disciple Wen Ximing had great potential to become a rising star in the martial world. He suddenly recalled where he had seen this figure before. He looks a bit like Zhang Jin. Guang Mu couldn't help but be curious and asked, "Why has the sword saint come to Shaolin Temple?" Guang Yun answered indifferently, "You came to visit Hong Wu martial uncle before returning. He must have brought his disciple to greet him, since they are friends." Guang Mu hadn't expected the hidden reason behind it. "What about my master?" Guang Yun bluntly pointed out, "It seems you rarely visit him." Embarrassed, he explained, "Everyone knows the relationship between you two isn't good." As if remembering something, Guang Yun turned to ask, "Aren't you bringing the child with you?" Guang Mu answered, "I left him at the kitchen." Did Guang Yun want to meet him? "It's nothing. You're not young anymore. You should consider taking a disciple. You've been living with that child for 7 years. You must have grown fond of him." He firmly refused. "Senior brother Guang Yun, I've decided not to take a disciple. You've neglected it all this time, and now you want me to take a disciple." Suddenly, Guang Yun changed his attitude completely. So you're planning to send the child away? After saying that, his eyes searched for an answer from the other. Guang Jing was currently struggling with many fears. Does senior brother know Zhang Jin is practicing martial arts? He finally admitted. How did you know? Guang Yun calmly replied. It's been 7 years. Knowing a bit of his martial arts is not surprising. However, he's already mastered your ultimate skill. Guang Mu rebutted. Even if he knows martial arts, I didn't teach him. Guang Yun still insisted. Anyway, the source is from you, so you must take responsibility. He found another reason, but the time for taking disciples has already passed. Guang Yun had no choice but to explain everything in detail. I contacted his family, and they came to see me and agreed. Guang Mu lost his composure and shouted, What? You already informed Zhang Jin's family. He couldn't contain his anger. If a mediocre disciple can be accepted, then what about a disciple with talent? But still, Shaolin Temple wasn't at the point where they had to beg others. Guang Yun kept giving vague answers, seeming unable to fully express himself. His face showed a stern expression. The child secretly learned Shaolin Temple's martial arts, and you just ignored it. Both of you are criminals. Do you want Shaolin Temple to punish you? The first punishment will be for Zhang Jin. The child will have his martial arts crippled, and you will have to repent in the Dongdianbi for the rest of your life. Is that really what you want? Guang Mu furrowed his brow, contemplating the punishment that was proposed. I don't care about myself, but what about the child? Guang Yun didn't wait for him to answer, and continued, If you don't want to take a disciple, there's another way. This is also the best way for both you and Shaolin Temple. He replied fearfully, What is it? In the end, Guang Yun revealed his plan. We can't let him continue stealing Shaolin Temple's martial arts. If you want to teach him, you must teach him properly. But since you don't want to teach, I'll find someone else. I'll send him to Hongwu Martial Uncle to learn martial arts every day, 2 shifts for training. When he reaches a certain level, he can join the other lay disciples for training. Guang Mu unexpectedly exclaimed, I didn't expect this other way to be like this. Guang Yun pondered silently, not offering any further response. Meanwhile, Wen Ximing was walking while observing the surroundings. It seems that Shaolin Temple is just a big temple after all. Yun Yanjiang immediately became serious. The big temple you mention, we of Huashan have never been able to surpass. He didn't believe it and retorted, But now, the martial world says that Huashan is the number 1 in the world. The old man smiled faintly at his disciple's naivety. In the eyes of the public, Shaolin Temple doesn't belong to that list. Yun Yanjiang taught him a new principle. If Shaolin Temple is the foundation, then the great sects and the martial world's alliances are the columns built on it. The columns may change, but the foundation remains. Moreover, people only compare the columns to each other. What does it matter if it's the tallest column? That's just the hollow title of the world's number 1. Wen Ximing couldn't comprehend. I don't understand. Shaolin Temple no longer has extraordinary talent. Yun Yanjiang agreed with him. I know what you're thinking, and that's exactly what worries me. Wen Ximing hesitated at his master's meaning. The old man didn't hide anything. With your talent, it won't be long before you dominate the world. And when that time comes, you'll have to face the wall that is Shaolin Temple. Yun Yanjiang carefully advised. So, observe every corner of Shaolin Temple closely. In his eyes, a new thought began to form. Wen Ximing promised him, Yes, I will definitely overcome that wall and not disappoint your expectations, Master. Yun Yanjiang patted his shoulder in encouragement. It's not just my expectations, but also the long-held wish of Huashan. You understand that, and that's good. Bringing you to Shaolin Temple was the right decision. The old man felt very pleased at that moment, imagining Hongwu's envious gaze, knowing that he must be seething with anger. Suddenly, his legs felt a slight tremor below. Wen Ximing was unaware, only observing the wary expression on his master's face. Master, why did it suddenly? Yun Yanjiang's gaze sharpened, and the air around him swirled continuously. Following the disturbance, it then flew toward the back gate of the temple. The energy was leading to the back of the mountain, where Zhang Jin was sitting. The old man clearly sensed the powerful energy circulating within him. Does Shaolin Temple really have someone like this? Yunyan Zhang changed direction immediately. Let's go check it out. Wen Siming was confused, not understanding what was happening, but he curiously followed his master. Where are we going? Meanwhile, a beautiful apple was brought before the little monk. I've never seen anyone peel an apple so thinly. Not even the master can do it like this. He held up the thin apple peel for inspection. The peel isn't even torn. That's incredible. The wooden knife moved on to peel another apple. Zhang Jin paused for a moment, deep in thought. He was not satisfied with the result. It's not as easy as I thought. To peel an apple without leaving any flesh behind is truly impossible. He cheerfully replied, but it's still better than before. In my opinion, it's perfect. He responded nonchalantly, but I still want to peel it as neatly as before. Suddenly, two shadows appeared, stretching across the stone where they were sitting. The little monk was a bit surprised, and asked the two strangers who had just appeared, "Who are you?" Zhang Jin instinctively glanced over. Yunyan Zhang politely greeted, "I am a guest visiting Shaolin Temple. If it's not inconvenient, may I watch?" He tried to smile to make them feel at ease. Zhang Jin and the little monk continued peeling apples under the watchful eyes of the two guests. After a while, Zhang Jin felt awkward and subtly glanced at them. Why are they watching me peel apples? Suddenly, Zhang Jin exerted too much force with his finger, and the neatly peeled apple skin was cut through. He was startled and thought to himself, "Oh no, I can't get distracted. I must focus on the apple." As for Yunyan Zhang, he continued to watch Zhang Jin work attentively. Wen Siming stood beside him, watching for a while, also confused, thinking, what is master looking at? The issue now shifted back to Zhang Jin. His fingers were skillfully peeling the skin. The more he concentrated, the easier it was to control the apple in his hand. At this moment, Zhang Jin was so focused that a stream of energy began to flow around him. Wen Siming noticed this mysterious phenomenon. This child is extraordinary. I thought he was just peeling apples, but it turns out he's circulating his energy. But it seems somewhat forced. Why is that? He was taken aback and stammered, "Master." But Yunyan Zhang signaled for him to stay quiet and observe closely. He glanced at his disciple's expression, and he too felt the flow of energy. He couldn't believe it, as the child looked to be only around 15 or 16. At this age, he had already condensed sword energy. Zhang Jin continued peeling the apple swiftly and lightly. The old man continued, "Actually, it's not quite sword energy, but it certainly feels like it." Ignoring their presence, Zhang Jin finished peeling the apple and showed it to the little monk. The old man continued to reflect. I didn't expect that the one practicing swordsmanship at Shaolin Temple would be such a child. Even I, a genius from Huashan, could only condense my sword energy in my late teens. Thinking of this, Yunyan Zhang's expression grew serious. This is why people fear Shaolin Temple. Suddenly, he asked, "You haven't shaved your head, so you must not be an official disciple. Are you a lay disciple?" Zhang Jin respectfully replied, "No, I'm just staying here for now." Yunyan Zhang was visibly surprised. Has Shaolin Temple not recognized the value of this child yet? He suddenly realized something. Since Wen Siming has outstanding martial talent, I broke the rules to take him as a disciple, regardless of his background. Zhang Jin's innocent face stared at him, thinking, if I break the rules again now and take on another disciple, it might hurt him. But isn't it better to have more talented people? The old man casually started a conversation with Zhang Jin. Watching you peel the apple makes me itch. Could you give me one? He obediently handed it over. Yunyan Zhang gently taught, an apple is a fruit, not an enemy. When peeling an apple, you should use a proper apple peeler. Holding the apple in his hand, the old man gently positioned his other hand into a slant. Suddenly, Yunyan Zhang swiftly turned the apple in his hand like a sharp knife, gently peeling the apple skin. Zhang Jin was amazed inside. How did he peel the skin with just his bare hands? After a few seconds, the final peel fell away. In his hand, the old man held a perfectly round, shiny apple. Wen Ming now understood the difference between his master and that child. The child's peeling movement was very awkward. He was only using his fingertips to hold the apple and his wrist to move the wooden knife. His body was still, but he used the right amount of force. He imagined what it would be like if the two of them fought. If he used that move to attack me, what would happen? If that's the case, I really couldn't block it. Wen Ming admitted to himself that he would lose. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin held the smooth apple, suddenly exclaiming, "How could it be peeled without leaving a mark?" He then gazed at it with admiration, thinking, "I want to peel like that too. But why can't I remember the apple peeling technique of that person?" Looking at Yun Yanjiang's smiling face, it seemed as if he was asking, "Isn't that difficult?" In his heart, he still thought, "It doesn't feel unpleasant at all. It must be because the movement was too ordinary." At that moment, a little monk hurriedly ran up to them. As soon as he stopped, he quickly shouted, "Who is Zhang Jin, the benefactor?" "Master Abbot. Great Master is calling for you." Zhang Jin heard this and quickly stood up, responding, "That's me." He didn't forget to bow to Yun Yanjiang. "It seems that my master is with Abbot Great Master. I must go now." The old man kindly replied, "If you have the chance, come visit Huashan." Zhang Jin was a bit surprised, and seeing this, Yun Yanjiang explained, "We are from Huashan sect. When you go to Huashan, just tell them you're looking for Yun Yanjiang." He nodded obediently, agreeing, "If I go there, I'll show the master how I peel apples." With that, Zhang Jin hurried off, so fast that the little monk couldn't help but worry, "Go slow." Yun Yanjiang stood silently, watching the two of them run off, thinking to himself, "I want to take this child as my disciple immediately, but he's from Shaolin Temple. Let's just leave things as they are. It's enough to sow the seed of destiny." Suddenly, a fierce voice yelled into his ear, "Hey, stop eyeing other people's stuff." Yun Yanjiang immediately closed his eyes and transmitted a message back. Lao Hongwu was angrily speaking from the other side. "Is that the child you mentioned? But he's not a disciple of Shaolin." Upon hearing this, Hongwu grumbled angrily, "It's fine. Even if he's not a disciple of Shaolin, what you're doing is not acceptable." Seeing the old man's determination, Yun Yanjiang had no choice but to accept it. He and Wen Ming walked out. Suddenly, the old man asked, "Tu Min, do you find this interesting?" He answered, "Yes, master." He hesitated, his face full of worry, sweating, but still honestly replied, "Actually, I feel scared." Wen Ming recalled the scene and continued, "If that child used a sword against me, I'm not sure I could defend myself." Yun Yanjiang chuckled with satisfaction. "Consider that a valuable lesson. Your talent is still far superior to his." Wen Ming respectfully replied, "Yes." But his face still carried a lot of concern. From the main road to the gate, both remained silent, each lost in their own thoughts. In Yun Yanjiang's heart, he felt that today's events would serve as motivation for Ming. But the old man also felt ashamed of his desire to take that child as a disciple in front of his own disciple. With his hands behind his back, he silently sighed. "Hongwu, you have a good disciple, but my disciple will surpass that wall, just like me, the most extraordinary genius of Huashan sect." Inside Shaolin Temple, the angry growl of Guangmu echoed, "Is that person really your master?" Hongwu frowned, showing his confusion. Guangmu stiffly repeated the matter of recruiting Zhang Jin as a disciple. The old man refused to admit it. Recruiting what? Zhang Jin stood in the middle, sweating with pressure from both sides. He carefully looked at the two men struggling. Very curious. "Is that person the master of my master?" Hongwu slammed his hand down on the table. "This is all your karma, taking liberties with teaching Shaolin's martial arts and then washing your hands of it. I had to step in." Guangmu angrily retorted, "Teach what?" At this point, Hongwu raised his head smugly and said, "Because of me, you didn't want to accept the disciple, but now you have no choice but to." He was absolutely right. Guangmu furrowed his brows, clearly uncomfortable, unable to respond. He exploded in anger. "If I'm guilty, it's only for saving a life. Is it a great crime for a monk to save a life?" Hongwu countered, "Your crime is not saving the person and then abandoning them. Abbot and Zhang Jin sat nearby, not daring to say anything. Hong Wu irritably continued. Do you know that the Sword Saint tricked that child into going to Huashan? If we don't accept him, he will find a way to take him back to Huashan. Upon hearing this, Guangmu was startled and jumped up. Is there such a thing? He turned to ask Zhang Jin. Is what your master said true? Zhang Jin honestly answered, Ah, I didn't know he was a sword saint, but he told me to go to Huashan and look for Yun Yanjiang. Guangmu couldn't believe it and explained, Yun Yanjiang is the name of the sword saint. Zhang Jin didn't seem shocked. He just thought the person was inviting him to hang out. Hong Wu looked pleased, grinning and saying, Here in this world, there's someone who treats the sword saint like a roadside stone. The sword saint has been disrespected. In his heart, Zhang Jin felt a bit puzzled. What's the matter? Is that person really that powerful? The situation earlier also helped to ease the atmosphere. Hong Wu calmly advised, This child is a precious gem for Shaolin Temple. Don't be so stubborn. Accept him as your disciple. Guangmu firmly said, I cannot do that. Hong Wu angrily stood up. This guy won't accept this, won't accept that. Then, you should just be the abbot yourself. Seeing the old man was about to strike someone, Guang Yun gently intervened. Master, calm down. Arguing like this won't resolve anything. With that, he looked at Zhang Jin, who was sitting obediently. Guang Yun spoke to him slowly. Zhang Jin, you've probably overheard. Shaolin Temple wants to take you as a lay disciple, teach you martial arts. You don't have to shave your head and become a monk. Hong Wu will be your master. Hearing this, he was astonished and instinctively asked, What does a lay disciple mean? The elder gently reassured him. That's right. Just speak freely. During this waiting moment, Guangmu focused on watching how Zhang Jin would react. On the other side, Hong Wu and Guang Yun also waited to see whether this extraordinary talent would agree. Zhang Jin fell into deep thought, not really understanding the world of martial arts. But were the two arguing because of him? He sighed quietly. Just 3 more years, and I can go home. Now, they wanted him to be a disciple. But what could he do? For 5 years, he had endured hunger and hardship, not to become a disciple of Shaolin. Given this, Zhang Jin decided to be clear. I don't want to learn martial arts. In 3 years, I'll go home. There's no need to teach me martial arts. The three of them never expected to hear such a reason. Hong Wu laughed loudly. I thought only the sword saint was superficial, but now I see I am too. Then, he changed his expression. Hey kid, do you think you can just become a lay disciple of Shaolin? Still, he held to his position. I will inherit the family business and become a merchant. Hong Wu crossed his arms, resigned. I understand what you mean, but your parents have already agreed. Zhang Jin was shocked and quickly asked, My parents? No way. They haven't seen me in 5 years. At this point, Guang Yun gently explained, Being a lay disciple of Shaolin doesn't mean you can't become a merchant or go home. You just need some time to learn the basics of being a Shaolin disciple. Even so, his face still showed a hint of disappointment. Seeing this, the elder couldn't help but sigh. There are so many people willing to give up all their wealth just to carry the name of Shaolin. And yet this child looks down on everything. The room fell into silence for a long while. Suddenly, Hong Wu muttered, 3 years, huh? If that's the case, I'll agree to his request and promise to let him go home in 3 years. So, do you agree? Guangmu was stunned, not expecting someone as stubborn as his master to compromise. Zhang Jin, in his heart, had countless thoughts. He didn't know what martial arts were, but it must be something like the way Hong Wu master had shown, right? It would probably be hard, but once he learned, it would be very convenient. Was this why everyone wanted him to become a disciple of Shaolin? If he learned martial arts, would people praise him? In his mind, Zhang Jin pictured his father being happy for him because of this. Zhang Jin made his decision, slammed the table, and stood up. He said seriously, I agree. But I have one more question. Learning martial arts won't make me go hungry, right? Hearing this, Hong Wu joyfully exclaimed, Very good, a wise decision. You're so smart. He turned to scold Guangmu, who was still in shock. How hungry have you let the child get for him to say something like that? Though Shaolin Temple is going through hard times, we're not at the point of starving children. Guangmu flustered and tried to explain. Starve him. Hongwu interrupted. Forget his explanation. Don't worry. I'll make sure the kid is well fed. Guangmu hopelessly looked at Abbott, explaining, Do you all think I intentionally starved the child? Guangyun didn't respond, just quietly chanting Buddha's name as if silently agreeing. Zhang Jin didn't know that he had made Guangmu look bad, but he secretly glanced at him, thinking, How strange. Why is the master so flustered? He felt a bit happy inside. Being a disciple of Shaolin Temple doesn't seem so bad after all. Once it was just the two of them, Guangyun said to Guangmu, I advise you to accept this. I've heard that Hongwu martial uncle has had some breakthroughs recently. Though I am a martial man, I am also a monk, and as the head of Shaolin Temple, I have a responsibility to protect it. This is my decision as abbot. You should follow it. Guangmu sighed tiredly. I didn't expect it to be like this. Can I not stop it? Does he have some kind of fate to meet the master? He glanced at Hongwu. He didn't know what he was saying to Zhang Jin, but he looked very happy. Guangmu didn't know what his master intended to do with Zhang Jin. But if the child is like you... Thinking of this, he couldn't help but ponder, as though he was thinking about something. On the other side, at Yuncheng, after hearing the news, Madame Zhang asked worriedly, Lord, is our Jin heir going to become a disciple of Shaolin Temple? Zhang Daoyun replied joyfully, Yes, Jin'er will be a disciple of Shaolin Temple, and he will learn the unparalleled martial arts of Shaolin Temple. But she still wasn't at ease, because martial arts training was very difficult. What if he gets injured? Seeing her worry, he gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Zhang Daoyun softly reassured her. Learning martial arts from Shaolin Temple is not difficult. As long as Jin'er persists and returns safely, our Yuncheng will be protected by Shaolin Temple. So don't worry, my lady. Seeing her still troubled, he mentioned that he had already made a generous offering to Shaolin Temple. They will not dare to disrespect Jin'er. At this, Madame Zhang finally smiled. Then I can rest easy. Zhang Daoyun raised his head, acting as though it was obvious. He is my only son. What is there to spare a few coins for? But she still had one concern. What about Jin'er's fate? This made him ponder as well. The high monks of Shaolin Temple said it would be fine, which is why they accepted him as a disciple. But she felt that Shaolin Temple was going through hard times lately, and feared it might be because of Jin'er. Zhang Daoyun was at his wit's end with her. Enough. Stop speaking nonsense. Even if what you say is true, Shaolin Temple's situation is gradually improving. Isn't that a good thing? It turned out that his words had relieved her worries. Seeing this, Zhang Daoyun gently advised, Then don't worry anymore. Just wait for good news about Jin'er. The two of them looked at each other, both hopeful for the bright future ahead. Madame Zhang responded softly with a word, Yes, full of love. Behind them, Shaolin Temple had many towering, majestic mountains. Through the rocky cliffs, one could see a small house atop the peak. That was Hongwu's hermitage. At this moment, the old man was asking Zhang Jin about various herbs, but he didn't know any. Hongwu stroked his beard, feeling puzzled. Didn't Guangmu teach you? Zhang Jin nervously scratched his chin. No, my master only answers when I ask. He doesn't teach anything. Hearing this, the old man secretly smiled. So you're just imitating Guangmu, not learning martial arts. Hongwu continued the test. Then, have you heard of acupoints, internal energy, mental techniques, blood flow, or meridians? Which one? Zhang Jin replied that he didn't know any of them. The old man felt helpless, thinking, I thought you had already accumulated some internal energy, and even knew Dragon Claw Hand and Buddha's Shadow Divine Steps. So I thought you had some basics. Turns out, this child doesn't know anything about martial arts. Thinking this, Hongwu slowly said, Martial arts is a combination of physical training and mental cultivation. First, I need to check if you are practicing martial arts incorrectly. He pointed at a shoulder pole. Do you see that shoulder pole? Try lifting it. Zhang Jin looked at it curiously. What is this shoulder pole for? Hong Wu continued. New disciples of Shaolin Temple usually practice with this first, because carrying water helps train balance very well. The old man handed the pole to him. Now, you try. It will be a bit difficult the first time. Hold it here and keep your balance. At this moment, Zhang Jin was tense, placing the pole on his shoulder. He trembled, but then was surprised to find it wasn't heavy at all, so it was quite light. Seeing that Zhang Jin had gotten used to it, Hong Wu told him to follow him. He was curious about where they were going. Hong Wu gave a mysterious smile, responding, "Carrying water means we have to carry water. What else? I'll go ahead. Be careful following me." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man's feet moved swiftly. Zhang Jin wouldn't be outdone. Gripping the shoulder pole tightly, he took a deep breath. Immediately, his feet followed quickly to catch up with the master. Zhang Jin thought to himself, so martial arts isn't that hard. Good. I'll just train hard for the next 3 years. Walking on the steep path, Hong Wu didn't seem tired at all. The body moved like a feather gliding over the flat ground. The old man didn't reduce his speed, walking forward while observing Zhang Jin behind him. At this moment, Zhang Jin was still rhythmically keeping up with Hong Wu, his face showing no sign of exhaustion. The old man was pleased and smug. Well done. Shaolin Temple is always high up. Even breathing is difficult. Yet he climbs higher and still keeps his breath steady. Zhang Jin continued walking behind the old man, but his legs were now a little heavier, not like when he was with Guangmu. Zhang Jin told himself, it must be because I'm used to absorbing energy. Although it's a bit difficult to breathe now, I can still manage. At this point, they had reached the source. Hong Wu patiently instructed, I'll go down first. You take your time. No need for me to remind you. You know you shouldn't spill the water, right? If you spill more than half, you'll have to go back and carry it again. Zhang Jin smiled innocently. I won't spill the water, master. Don't worry. Seeing him like this, the old man murmured in his heart, Kid, this will be tough. It seems simple, but maintaining balance when the center of gravity constantly shifts is not easy. Even new disciples of Shaolin Temple need 6 months to 3 years to get used to it. The old man had no intention of reminding him, so he left. Zhang Jin smiled quietly, watching Hong Wu go down the mountain, waiting for him to disappear from sight. Determination flared in his eyes. Then I'll begin. But the reality was not so easy. The wooden bucket full of water was now swaying violently, just as Hong Wu had predicted. Zhang Jin's center of gravity was off, and the water he had just collected spilled out because of the swaying. Moreover, because his shoulder was in pain, he used more force, but that made him lean even more. The body was heavy like this, and even a small loss of balance would cause the water to spill. Zhang Jin worried, thinking, what should I do? At this rate, I won't be back until evening. Hong Wu hid behind a rock, laughing loudly. Not easy, kid. The old man's gaze was fixed on Zhang Jin, who was taking each step, carrying the water down. By now, Zhang Jin had reached halfway down to Hong Wu's hermitage. His legs were trembling from overexertion. He suddenly realized that maintaining balance was more important than preventing his shoulder from hurting. If his shoulder moved up and down with the bucket's sway, the water wouldn't ripple. As long as he kept his waist, the center of his body still, and used his shoulder and toes to maintain balance. Thinking this, Zhang Jin immediately put it into practice. Now, carrying the water on his shoulder was no longer an obstacle, and his body moved nimbly down the mountain. The more he used this method to descend, the more skillful Zhang Jin became. He happily exclaimed, It's just hard at first. Once you get the hang of it, it's too easy. Good. Now I just need to run at full speed. Watching from the side, Hong Wu couldn't help but widen his eyes in astonishment. Impossible. He's grasped the essence of the walking technique, like water flowing, which usually takes 3 years of lightness training to achieve. The old man muttered to himself, This kid is strange. He clearly doesn't have martial talent, but he's able to comprehend it so easily. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Hong Wu's mind. Could it be because he's using internal energy well? After Zhang Jin had reached the bottom of the mountain, the old man led him into the house to sit down. Now I'll guide the internal energy in your body. Don't move. Focus your mind, and absolutely no talking. Hongwu began channeling his internal energy into his hand. If Zhang Jin knew how to use internal energy, he would certainly respond to the old man's energy. Through this, the old man could gauge how well Zhang Jin was controlling his internal energy. At that moment, Hongwu's internal energy reached the center of Zhang Jin's energy system. The boy obediently closed his eyes and sat still. But out of habit, he began to inhale. The green internal energy that was supposed to flow, in order now twisted and tightly wrapped around Hongwu's energy. Sensing something strange, Hongwu was puzzled. What's happening? After a while, he realized that the energy he had sent into Zhang Jin's body had disappeared. Hongwu couldn't help but yell out. He jumped back a distance, frozen in shock as he looked at Zhang Jin. Could it be that he absorbed someone else's internal energy, turning it into his own? The Northern Dark Divine Art. The sound of Hongwu's internal energy echoed through the distant mountains. Zhang Jin had accumulated a significant amount of internal energy. I sent my true energy in, but it didn't respond. At first, I thought he was practicing dark arts, but it seems he doesn't know how to use internal energy. Guangmu slowly said, because he hasn't been taught breathing techniques yet, master. Hongwu couldn't believe it. A child who doesn't know how to regulate their energy can sit cross-legged for over half an hour and carry 2 buckets of water weighing more than 10 kilograms, then run up a slope. If it's possible to do that without regulating energy, then Zhang Jin must have far more vitality than others. Hearing this, Guangmu turned his back to the old man, silent, his expression unclear. After a while, he decided to speak. Actually, Zhang Jin has been practicing the body-strengthening dynamic exercise for 7 years now. Body-strengthening dynamic exercise. Hongwu stroked his beard, thinking about the time. If he's been mimicking you for the past 7 years, then it's certainly possible. Guangmu stood up and turned back, replying, yes, a child who knows nothing but achieves success through body-strengthening dynamic exercise can only be explained by the mind-generating energy, which is also known as the mind moving and the energy following. Although Zhang Jin doesn't consciously control it, the energy in his body still flows on its own. So that's how it is. Hongwu agreed with this reasoning. If it's the mind-generating energy, then it explains everything. He laughed loudly, satisfied. Why did I say Shaolin Temple was declining? Shaolin Temple has always been there. I just hadn't seen it. Guangmu didn't understand, softly asking, Master, what do you mean? Hongwu didn't explain, only continued, Shaolin Temple is protected by Buddha. The invincible deity always watches over Shaolin Temple. What is there to worry about? Buddha has granted Shaolin Temple a child I've always longed for. There's no need to teach him the theories of the harmless infinite. Hongwu joyfully left, leaving Guangmu feeling troubled and sighing in worry as he returned to his hermitage. The old man began demonstrating movements for Zhang Jin to follow. A dense energy surrounded Hongwu. He spoke softly. This is both the beginning and the end of the martial arts you will learn from me. Limitless. This is the essence of the limitless harmless, containing all my martial expertise. Although it looks simple, it holds the essence of numerous martial disciplines. This is the starting posture of the limitless technique. After saying this, the old man focused and began performing the movements. After only a few moves, Zhang Jin was sweating, his breathing not as smooth as before. But he wasn't afraid of exhaustion and focused on observing the movements, almost mirroring Hongwu perfectly. After some time, the ground beneath his feet was covered in countless footprints. Then came the next movement. Seeing Zhang Jin panting and resting, the old man was very pleased. What a lovely child. You deserve to learn the limitless harmless technique. Once you've mastered it, the martial world will be yours. What I couldn't achieve, this child will... Suddenly, Zhang Jin spoke, interrupting the old man's thoughts. Will this help make the body stronger? The Grandmaster said martial arts is for strengthening both the body and the mind, but the limitless technique doesn't seem like that. Hearing this, Hongwu pondered for a moment. Does practicing the limitless technique help strengthen the body? In reality, the limitless technique is a dangerous and difficult exercise. It doesn't make the body stronger. It can even cause the energy and blood to become disordered. Even I've faced danger a few times. This child immediately noticed. What? The old man raised an eyebrow and asked, "It seems like you've figured something out. What do you mean? Explain it to me." Zhang Jin obediently explained, "I think the Grandmaster seems like he's preparing to fight someone." Hong Wu revealed a knowing look. Martial arts stem from self-defense, protecting oneself from danger. Zhang Jin still couldn't understand. Is it really necessary to learn martial arts to protect yourself? Zhang Jin gave an example. In my house, if I had to go through a dangerous mountain road, I would hire bodyguards. Hong Wu couldn't help but feel helpless at Zhang Jin's unusual way of thinking. He patiently explained, "Martial arts is for fighting people, but it doesn't always mean you need to fight. Martial arts are for self-defense." Zhang Jin hesitated, but the limitless technique looks really hard. His face showed clear worry. Hong Wu gently stroked his beard, contemplating, "It seems it's too much for you, right? Well, you need to have opened at least 6 of the main channels and 2 of the 8 extraordinary meridians before you can practice it." The old man decided to go along with Zhang Jin's wishes. "Then I'll teach you how to regulate your energy from the beginning." At this moment, Zhang Jin was overjoyed, laughing and thanking him repeatedly, which also made Hong Wu happy. "You're as happy as I am." Having studied for a while, the old man and Zhang Jin walked down the mountain together. At this point, Zhang Jin was gliding down the mountain as if flying. Martial arts, as he thought, was not easy, as he had encountered with Senior Yun. Was it because he had been too overconfident? The book in his hand was an introductory guide to the meridians. It taught the basics of regulating energy, and it was a book that could be found anywhere. Even though Zhang Jin was reading, his feet never stopped moving. Suddenly, he looked up ahead and noticed something was off. Zhang Jin was confused and stopped. "What's going on? This is strange." He looked around, searching. "I've never felt this kind of strange energy before." Looking into the distance, it seemed like whatever it was very close. The further he ran toward it, the denser the energy became. Zhang Jin kept running while trying to breathe deeply to find the source of this energy. Finally, he burst through a thick forest. He gently crawled out from under a low layer of leaves. Standing among the thick green plants, Zhang Jin was astonished by what he saw. He couldn't help but shout loudly to release the shock in his heart. "This tree is so huge!" It was the dew tree that was emitting the energy. Zhang Jin didn't rush. He ran closer. Around the base of the tree were bright flowers in various colors. Clusters of mushrooms layered on top of each other, spreading their caps. Zhang Jin lightly touched the tree's trunk, and the energy emanating from it was even stronger than in the morning. He couldn't resist taking a deep breath. "Amazing. I'm not hungry anymore." So, Zhang Jin decided to make this his route to visit Hong Wu. He would stop here to absorb the energy. A week later, right now, Zhang Jin was trembling as he tried to control his internal energy. Hong Wu stood by, still puzzled. "It's been more than a week, and you still haven't regulated your energy." He was angry. "Why is the energy not flowing as it should? Why do you keep forcing it?" Zhang Jin hurried to explain. "When I practiced body-strengthening dynamic exercise with Guangmu, the energy flowed perfectly. But when I try on my own, it doesn't work." Hong Wu furrowed his brows, thinking, is the problem in the mind generating energy? The energy is already flowing as you wish, so the more you force it, the worse it gets. It seems like the usual method doesn't work for you. To help Zhang Jin continue his martial arts training, the old man decided to try a different method. Today, Hong Wu would teach him footwork. Footwork is the movement used to gain a more advantageous position than the opponent. It's not too difficult, as long as you don't get hit. The old man shifted to another posture. This is the Arhat stance, a basic footwork taught to all new disciples of Shaolin. The characteristic of the Arhat stance is to be motionless like movement, and still like being in another place, but remaining in place. The next footwork could be learned just by watching. This is the 8 Immortals footwork of the Gai Bang school. At this point, Zhang Jin practiced alone, thinking, the Grandmaster said footwork is for effective evasion. But when I try, I feel the energy in my body becomes disordered. Why do I need to avoid so much? Maybe I should skip from steps 23 to 28. His feet shifted lightly, and his body quickly spun, stepping forward without rotating like before. The footprints of the Arhat stance, originally clear, had been altered by him into half steps and could even be reduced further. Zhang Jin buried his head in practice without stopping, sweat dripping in beads. After some time, when his body could no longer take it, he stopped and gasped for air. Zhang Jin wiped his sweat and mumbled, "Only 10 steps are enough. How easy is this? Why didn't the master teach me like this?" Time passed quickly, and before he knew it, 3 months had gone by. Now, Guangmu was worried and went to see Abbot, asking, "Master is teaching Zhangjin martial arts from other schools. Does senior brother agree with this?" Guangyun didn't understand. "What are you talking about?" Guangmu was furious and repeated, "Don't beat around the bush. Zhangjin is learning martial arts from other schools." Abbot felt helpless. "I told him not to learn from other schools. You must be mistaken." Guangmu slammed his hand on the table and yelled, "I saw him suddenly using the footwork of Sovereign Wheel Sect and the Immovable Sect. Should I have taught him this? Even if I passed on my techniques, this will only harm Zhang Jin." Guangyun was shocked and sighed. Has he really done this in just 3 months? Hearing this, Guangmu was taken aback and had an epiphany. Did senior brother foresee this? Abbot calmly explained, "I didn't say I didn't foresee it. I just know he is a child who can learn just by observing. Now, there's nothing we can do. You should go back." Guangmu was upset, unable to respond. He stared at Guangyun, while Abbot could only turn a blind eye, letting Guangmu know that it was time to leave. Having said everything, Abbot didn't offer a response. He was angry and left. In the room, Guangyun fell into deep thought. This child was chosen by the Holy Sword to join MT, worth my sacrifice. But to cultivate Zhang Jin into a talented person for Shaolin Temple, it will take more than 20 years. The biggest issue is that Zhang Jin has no interest in martial arts. He softly chanted, "Adija Fat," calming himself, hoping he had made the right choice. At that moment, a monk knocked on the door, announcing that the abbot of the disciplinary hall had arrived. Guangyun brewed a pot of hot tea and invited Yuan Hao, then gently asked, "What brings you here?" He replied solemnly, "The disciples roaming the Jianghu have sent word. The 10 martial lords has been acting strangely." Upon hearing this, Guangyun fell into deep contemplation. The 10 martial lords, the 10 top martial experts of the current martial world, the actions of just one of them could have as great an impact as an entire martial school. His face became serious. "Do they have any specific actions?" Yuan Hao slowly continued. "Recently, they've been monitoring Shaolin Temple, and the number of carrier pigeons from other martial schools has doubled. Intelligence organizations have also been more active. The situation is concerning." Abbot's hand stopped on the prayer beads. "This is serious." Yuan Hao furrowed his brow and continued, "Coincidentally, right after the Holy Sword left Ben Shan, and Hongwu Master took Zhang Jin as his disciple, the 10 martial lords started monitoring the activities of Shaolin Temple." Guangyun hesitated and asked, "Do you think the 10 martial lords is acting because of this?" "That's definitely the case," said Yuan Hao. "The secret techniques can be kept hidden, but they are the ones who lost nearly all their martial arts to Hongwu Master. If someone inherits Hongwu Master's martial arts, they won't sit still." At this point, he could no longer stay calm. "What should we do now? It was a mistake to entrust the child to Hongwu Master. Abbot shouldn't have made that decision." Hearing this, Guangyun couldn't remain at ease. Yuan Hao was one of the leaders of the Yuan generation. If he wasn't satisfied with my decision, then most of the senior disciples likely think the same. Yuan Hao had a legitimate reason, so he spoke more directly, "No matter what Abbot intends, as the abbot of the disciplinary hall, at the very least, you should let me know if that decision was reasonable." Abbot shut his eyes tightly, hiding his thoughts. "I understand. I'll let you know." The next day, Yuan Hao went directly to meet Hongwu and Zhang Jin. The reason Yuan Hao came was because the lay disciples' assembly was being held in the temple. Hearing this, Zhang Jin was curious. "What is the lay disciples' assembly?" Hongwu explained to him. The lay disciples' assembly is a martial arts competition among the lay disciples, held once every few years at Shaolin Temple. The winner will compete with one of the formal disciples at Benshan and has a chance to be taught advanced martial arts. I see. That doesn't concern you. Zhang Jin nodded confusedly, following Hongwu. What does the lay disciples' assembly have to do with the disciplinary hall? Yuan Hao glanced at him and explained, Abbot decided to let Zhang Jin participate in this assembly, since he is now a lay disciple. Hongwu suddenly exclaimed, But Zhang Jin has only been a lay disciple for a few months. Yuan Hao persuaded, Although he is a lay disciple under the headmaster's order, there is no exception. Moreover, the child has some martial skills, so it's fine. Hongwu hesitated. It's true it's not an issue, but he hasn't learned the basics of combat yet. Hearing this, Guang Yun and Yuan Hao were stunned. He quickly asked, Then what has he learned? Hongwu nonchalantly replied, He's only learned footwork. Upon hearing this answer, Yuan Hao anxiously turned to Abbot. Guang Yun thought for a while before saying, After all, he'll have to integrate with the other disciples, so it can be considered as accumulating experience. We should also observe his progress with Hongwu Master. This is an issue worth considering. Hongwu lightly stroked his beard. I'm fine with it. He muttered the last sentence in his heart. But Zhang Jin's footwork could cause a commotion at Shaolin Temple. Hongwu felt that Zhang Jin shouldn't participate in the lay disciples' assembly just yet, so he asked for a few more days. Yuan Hao didn't press him. Then, 1 week later, Zhang Jin will compete with the winner. We'll have an internal competition between the two of them. Whoever wins will compete with a disciple from Benshan. Upon hearing this, the old man was stunned and asked in return, Why is it an internal competition? Guang Yun also felt that Yuan Hao's words made sense. If Zhang Jin loses, it will cause a huge stir among the disciples. Hongwu waved his hand in frustration. Fine, it's up to you, but I don't understand why he has to participate. Guang Yun didn't reply to him. He turned and asked, What do you think, Zhang Jin? The boy looked up at him in confusion, as if not understanding why he was asking him. Zhang Jin pressed his lips together, and his mind was filled with many thoughts. Suddenly, he lifted his head with determination and answered, I am a lay disciple of Shaolin Temple. If I must do it, I will. But could the competition be deadly? Guang Yun gently explained, If the strength is insufficient, and one doesn't know when to stop, sometimes unfortunate things can happen. Therefore, when competing, the safety of your opponent must always come first. Hearing this, Hongwu suddenly turned to ask him, What's wrong? Are you afraid? Zhang Jin didn't understand why he was asking this, but immediately replied, I am not afraid. The answer was exactly what Hongwu wanted. He laughed heartily, praising, Good. A martial artist must value honor more than life itself. This statement stirred up anxiety, making the faces of the other two grow more serious, especially Yuan Hao. In his eyes, there was a judgment, as though Zhang Jin were a criminal. The boy felt uncomfortable and stepped back, thinking to himself, Why does this person seem so angry? It's scary, just like the first time I met my master. Watching the figures of Hongwu and Zhang Jin leave, Yuan Hao quietly said to Yuan Wu, In the past, Hongwu Master almost faced punishment for secretly learning martial arts from other schools. Although it was self-taught and not stolen, he could have justified it. But if Shaolin Temple wasn't strong enough at the time, it could have been destroyed. Yuan Wu, now the leading instructor for lay disciples, had heard of this incident, even though he had entered the sect later. Seeing this, Yuan Hao continued, You also travel the Jianghu, so you should know that Shaolin Temple is no longer what it used to be. The recent financial crisis has made the situation even worse. What will happen if a child who inherits Hongwu Master's martial arts appears now? Moreover, a child skilled in the martial arts of other schools. Yuan Wu knew that this would be the perfect excuse for them to attack. Yuan Hao furrowed his brow in concern. That's right. If that happens again, Shaolin Temple may never recover. To deal with this, Yuan Wu had already made plans. He was in charge of judging the lay disciple competition this time. If he discovered that the child used martial arts from other schools, Yuan Wu would take action himself before Hong Wu Master could intervene. Yuan Hao was stunned, but he quickly agreed, "I'll handle the consequences. If that happens, Hong Wu Master won't be able to do anything." At that moment, the two of them were resolute in their own calculations, but Yuan Hao felt uneasy inside. As a monk, encouraging others to harm people was an unforgivable crime, but he would bear all the karmic consequences. Yuan Hao watched the figures of Zhang Jin and his master as they left, deep in thought. He expressed his determination. "Even if I have to go to hell to atone, I will do everything for Shaolin Temple." The next day, at Hong Wu's place, the old man instructed Zhang Jin. "You've learned how to evade, but you haven't learned how to control your opponent. And if you only evade, you cannot win. So today, I'll teach you that." Zhang Jin eagerly looked forward to it. The old man gripped his fists tightly, pulled them back to his waist, and explained, "This is Vajra Fist, a form of boxing from Shaolin Temple. Vajra Fist focuses on toughness and solidity, like diamond." While explaining, he demonstrated for Zhang Jin. At that moment, Hong Wu changed his stance, stamping his foot firmly into the ground, creating a depression. Zhang Jin watched in awe. Each step shakes the earth. With every move, Hong Wu patiently explained, "Vajra Fist doesn't have many variations, and the techniques don't emphasize speed, but focus on stability, like Mount Tai, as the center. In other words, your whole body must become as solid as Mount Tai, as strong as diamond." After finishing the set, Hong Wu looked up, his eyes filled with righteousness, like seeing an arhat about to deliver punishment. The old man stood up straight again, beginning to teach him the first stance, Bung San Jok Lap. Time gradually passed, and the mountains became clearer as the fog lifted. This tranquility was broken by the powerful sounds of practicing Vajra Fist. Zhang Jin sweated profusely during his training, silently complaining, "Why is this so difficult? Why do I have to yell, tense up, and shout so loudly? It doesn't suit me at all." He felt a bit regretful. "I wish I hadn't learned martial arts." After a long while, Zhang Jin stopped, sitting down on the ground, panting heavily. Hong Wu was worried, deep in thought. "The footwork is good, but the boxing technique is so weak. It doesn't look powerful at all." He blamed himself. "It must be because I forced him to learn, that's why. How could I forget that when learning the footwork, he figured it out himself and understood it?" Hong Wu made a decision in his mind, slowly walking over, saying, "It's hard to mimic the exact movements I just did, so just practice naturally in your own way. But remember, every movement has its meaning. The shouting, the stomping, everything has a reason." He wasn't sure if this was the right approach, but it was the way he was doing it. Listening to Hong Wu's words, Zhang Jin began practicing in his own way. He threw a punch and thought, "Shouting will make the abdomen exert force. The more the abdomen exerts force, the stronger the punch will be." Zhang Jin shifted his posture, turning around and stamping his foot hard. He focused on feeling the interaction of force between his foot and the ground. Zhang Jin realized it, stomping on the ground. The purpose is to create a counterforce. Moreover, the body's center of gravity should be focused forward. He relentlessly experimented, feeling. Hong Wu hid behind the door, watching, and couldn't help but marvel. This child, when focused, is truly frightening. At that moment, Zhang Jin's stance was no longer simple. A wave of internal force emanated from his hand. He felt it and thought, "Stomping on the ground and simultaneously throwing a punch will shift the center of gravity more forward. The center of gravity focuses on the punch, meaning all the strength of the body is focused on one point. So, this is how to throw a powerful punch. Then, there's no need to tense up like the master. Just focus the center of gravity into the punch." Having figured out an effective method, he was pleased and decided to try it. The sky gradually turned golden, and in the blink of an eye, it was dusk. Hong Wu lazily yawned, having dozed off. Zhang Jin must have gone down the mountain by now, right? Suddenly, Hong Wu was astonished and stopped, seeing the strange scene in front of him. On the ground, there were strange swirling patterns. He was stunned, staring, thinking he had guessed something. Hong Wu knelt down, extending his hand to probe the traces left on the ground. the perfect spiral marks, which even if done intentionally, would be hard to draw. Unbelievable. He carefully examined it and concluded, I told him to practice standing like an iceberg, yet he immediately released internal force. He widened his eyes in shock, discovering something, just practicing footwork, and already reaching the level of releasing internal force. It would normally take decades to achieve this. Hongwoo immediately stood up, gazing at the neat spiral patterns and softly sighing, even witnessing it firsthand. I still can't believe it. After a moment of silence, he stroked his beard, somewhat confused. But how could practicing Vajra Fist lead to releasing internal force? He immediately recalled the previous training sessions with Zhang Jin and pondered. When teaching footwork, he learned how to evade. When teaching punches, he learned how to release internal force. As soon as he finished thinking, Hongwoo immediately smiled, feeling very pleased. What a strange child. The lay-disciple competition will definitely be chaotic because of you. The evening shadows gradually darkened. In the quiet forest, with Hongwoo's hearty laughter echoing from within, as nightfall descended, the forest became eerily silent and still. A powerful foot stomped heavily on the ground, moving forward, creating small sounds that echoed through the night forest. Zhang Jin was extremely exhausted and gradually drained of energy, leaning against a tree by the path, gasping for breath. He gently blinked, his face covered in sweat, silently thinking, is Vajra Fist really like this? Zhang Jin slowly reflected on what had happened while he was practicing Vajra Fist. I just wanted to focus the center of my body and punch, but the energy within me began to move on its own. He continued thinking about his cultivation, causing all his muscles to contract and then suddenly relax. Zhang Jin's body immediately became intensely sore. Zhang Jin's face showed pain as he gritted his teeth, enduring the torment. Immediately after, he recalled the fall to the ground and still sighed. I tried to maintain my balance to avoid falling. Zhang Jin fell painfully because his body's center of gravity had shifted entirely forward. After the fall, he immediately created a striking spiral under his feet, but it seemed Zhang Jin couldn't see it. He hugged his aching body, taking each step into the forest, silently thinking, my whole body is sore. It still hasn't gone away. Zhang Jin's weak, pale face, his eyes vacant, he thought to himself. The master also practices this, yet he seems fine. It must be because he's so used to it from years of training. Zhang Jin entered the forest, feeling uneasy. I'm so tired. I wish I had known this beforehand. A peaceful morning light bathed the entire mountain. Has the kid finally woken up? Zhang Jin was startled awake by the call, looking very confused. What's wrong, master? Guangmu stood beside him, staring at him as he reminded him, you didn't come back last night. I had to find you lying unconscious on the ground. Zhang Jin quickly bowed his head, speaking with regret and sorrow. Sorry, master. I don't know when I passed out. Guangmu became very serious and frowned, then immediately asked, what exactly happened? Did you practice and end up in this condition? Zhang Jin clenched his hand and arm tightly, unable to speak, then slowly recounted the events to him. I was learning Vajra Fist from Hongwoo the master, but something felt off. I just wanted to focus my center of gravity into my punch, but my muscles contracted and relaxed on their own, causing me to fall to the ground. When Zhang Jin finished, Guangmu widened his eyes in doubt. Is Vajra Fist really like that? What is he talking about? Immediately, he proposed something that surprised Zhang Jin. Just hearing it, I don't understand, though it seems difficult, but try showing me again. The night moon silently rose high to illuminate the areas around the mountain. Guangmu's face showed concern as he watched Zhang Jin perform the moves, observing each direction the foot turned, and he sighed. That's not just simple boxing. Guangmu meticulously observed every turn and attack of Zhang Jin. He said he learned Vajra Fist. Zhang Jin quickly launched a strong attack toward him, which made Guangmu feel surprised, so he's already grasped how to combine internal and external power. Guangmu unconsciously furrowed his brow, gritted his teeth, and struggled to block Zhang Jin's strike. After a while, he quickly moved toward the back of the mountain, feeling very uneasy. He can't participate in the lay disciple competition. His opponent will die. A calm, puzzled voice came from inside the room. Why are you here now? The voice continued, filled with suspicion. I didn't see you during the day, and now you come here at night. What are you planning? As soon as the voice stopped, Guangmu immediately stated his purpose. The participation of Zhang Jin in the lay disciple competition must be cancelled. Hongwu found it hard to believe what he heard and asked back, What did you just say? Hearing this, Guangmu repeated his purpose. Zhang Jin hasn't yet controlled his power. Hongwu immediately frowned, silently observing from inside. Guangmu stood outside, seriously analyzing the harm of the situation. If we're not careful, there will be great consequences. Why are you teaching a child who can't control his power such dangerous moves? Hongwu immediately shouted back in protest, What are you talking about? I didn't teach him any dangerous moves. Guangmu continued to argue from the outside, looking extremely angry. Stop pretending. You know well that among the lay disciples, no one of his age can withstand a punch from Zhang Jin. One small mistake, and they'll lose their life. Hongwu laughed loudly, then sighed. A martial artist shouldn't fear death. If they fear death, then why practice martial arts? Guangmu was furious when he heard this, and furrowed his brow even tighter. The two argued loudly, fighting fiercely in the vast forest. He shouted, Master still hasn't changed at all. If something happens during the competition, how heartbroken will their parents be? And Zhang Jin too, he still stubbornly defends himself. Did Zhang Jin say that? Is he afraid of killing someone? Why are you interfering with his business? That's his problem, not yours. As soon as those words left his mouth, Guangmu immediately froze, staring inside. After a moment of calm, Hongwu inside the room finally rebutted. There are a few points wrong. First, even though Zhang Jin can emit energy, I don't think he has enough strength to bring it to the mainland. He continued calmly. With just 2 years of internal power, how could he generate enough energy to kill someone? At most, he'll break a bone. Guangmu immediately gave up hope and spoke, I know I can't reason with the master. Hongwu became extremely angry and jumped up, shouting, What? This guy? Immediately, Guangmu turned and left, glancing back at him as he spoke, I will go meet Abbot's senior brother, and Zhang Jin absolutely cannot participate in the lay disciple competition until he learns to control his strength. Then, he turned and ran swiftly toward the mountainside. After Guangmu left, the mountain area became incredibly quiet. Hongwu slowly walked toward the door, observing the surroundings. He swung the door open wide and laughed maliciously, amused, soon. Guangmu hurried forward, thinking to himself, if Zhang Jin accidentally hurts someone now, he will be haunted for life. His face was very serious as he stared ahead. His innocence will disappear. The more he thought, the faster he moved, rushing forward. As he ran, Guangmu silently vowed, I won't let that happen while he's beside me. The night sky was illuminated by the beautiful and magnificent full moon. Zhang Jin lay flat on the wooden bed, looking up at the sky and reflecting, when will I be able to control my energy at will? But if I focus, it seems my internal power does move a little. Recently, I feel the energy in my dantian has grown much bigger, probably due to absorbing a lot of energy from that dew tree. Immediately after, Zhang Jin sat up abruptly, speaking with an uneasy tone. This is bad. I can't stop absorbing energy, but if I keep absorbing it, my internal power will only grow stronger. He bit his lip in silent fear. What if I touch someone lightly and they die? Zhang Jin stayed silent for a long time, staring up at the night sky, then concluded, there's no other choice but to regulate my energy. Only that way can I control the power within. The mansion echoed with a loud argument. He can't let Zhang Jin participate in the side competition. Junior brother, did you have to come here at this hour to discuss this? Is there anything more important than this right now? Guang Yun pondered for a moment before slowly speaking. But I can't make this decision on my own. I need to ask for the opinions of Hongwu and Yuan Hao first. Guangmu grew impatient upon hearing this. It's hard to convince the master. But if Zhang Jin participates in the competition, other children will get hurt. Do you still want to let him participate? Guang Yun furrowed his brows and closed his eyes slightly, trying to reassure him. Calm down. I understand your concerns. He spoke slowly to persuade Guangmu. I and the other sect leaders will be present at the side competition. If anything unexpected happens, we can handle it. If the situation is critical, I will use a great recovery pill. Upon hearing this, Guangmu was greatly shocked. Guangyun turned his back to him and reassured, I know you're worried. Hongwu is teaching martial arts to Zhangjin and still has time. Let's wait and see. Just as Guangmu was about to argue, Guangyun quickly interrupted, To be honest, this is not something for you to worry about. You're acting like a child throwing a tantrum. Guangmu became extremely angry and dissatisfied, furrowing his brows tightly. Then, he relaxed and conceded, Fine, I'll wait until before the competition. If nothing has changed by then, I'll find a way to stop it. Guangyun stared at the departing figure of Guangmu, silently marveling in his heart. The sun must have risen in the west. How is he still standing there silently, watching? Guangmu has lived alone for more than 30 years, and now, because of a child named Zhangjin, he has come to find me at this hour. You should have taken in a disciple earlier. The troubles would have been worth it, and the suffering would eventually pass. After that, he turned around and quietly left, whispering, Amitabha. At the Shaolin Temple's martial arts training ground, just as dawn was breaking, disciples were already emerging from within. The man walking in front suddenly turned around and struck up a conversation, surprising Wang Wu. Wang Wu, have you heard? This time, the Yisheng tournament will have an auxiliary match. Hearing this, he found it hard to believe and asked in return, an auxiliary match. Against whom? The man glanced around before speaking in a low voice. Against the child being trained by great martial uncle Hongwu. Everyone present was shocked and began murmuring among themselves. Being trained by a martial arts master. How enviable. I heard he only became an outer disciple half a year ago. The crowd was engrossed in discussing the news, their excitement growing. I can't believe it. Even if he has an innate talent, how could they let a child who has only trained for half a year compete against the tournament champion? Who is this kid to receive such special treatment? Wang Wu stood among the gossiping crowd, his mind filled with thoughts about this rumored individual. Who exactly is he? A voice suddenly startled the group. It seems that this time, Wu Jin has returned from the martial world. I heard that he has eradicated many evildoers, earning immense fame across the land. The discussions continued. I want to win the tournament so I can challenge Wu Jin. That would be a great honor. You? No way. Among us, Junior Wang Wu is the best, but even he would struggle against Wu Jin. Wang Wu listened to them talk about him and couldn't help but feel anger rising. The hall became livelier, with debates growing more heated. The martial arts of the Benshan disciples are different from ours. How can we win? This is unfair. That kid has already been trained by great martial uncle Hongwu. Exactly. We have to win the tournament to learn high-level techniques. But what about him? I heard his family is very wealthy. At that last comment, Wang Wu's eyes lit up. Wealthy, you say? He slowly approached the one who had spoken, his voice filled with confidence. I'll take care of him. You all don't need to worry. I'll win the tournament, and the auxiliary match too. His expression turned fierce and determined. You all can just participate for fun. If you're that confident, then go ahead and try. His voice sent shivers through the crowd, making them widen their eyes in shock. Wang Wu took the lead, walking forward with an imposing stance. With a stern face, he stepped through the crowd amidst the murmurs. What's going on? Why has the atmosphere suddenly become so tense? You don't know. His father is the leader of the Yuning Merchant Guild in Anhui. Yuning is a competitor of Zhenshang. As his figure gradually faded into the distance, the murmurs only intensified. So this tournament is no longer just about skill. This is a matter of family honor. Unconsciously, Wang Wu clenched his fists, his emotions barely contained. He kept moving forward, thoughts swirling in his mind. No one is more qualified than me. I must win and defeat that Zhenshang brat. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin was diligently training under the watchful eye of Hongwu. He would occasionally meditate to maintain his composure and regulate his internal energy. After each training session, he was meticulously observed by Guangmu. On the other hand, Wang Wu was training fiercely. Unlike Zhang Jin, his attacks were aggressive and ruthless, knocking down opponent after opponent in an instant. His eyes widened with unwavering determination and strength. Both of their efforts were observed and cheered on with great enthusiasm. Finally, after much time had passed, the day of the auxiliary match arrived. At the martial arts training ground, people began emerging from within. The abbots gathered together to discuss the matter. I heard that Junior Wang Wu has great potential. Is that true? Not just anyone can become the champion of the Secular Disciples Tournament. After a while, Guangjing shifted the conversation toward Zhang Jin. And what about Zhang Jin? Hearing this, Wang Wu furrowed his brows slightly and fell silent. Although he was taught by Hong Wu, it's still worth looking forward to. He's only been learning martial arts for a few months. He's probably not a match for Junior Wang Wu. Hong Wu sat silently beside them. Hearing this, he immediately frowned, glancing at the elder with a questioning look. At this moment, Guang Yun burst into laughter and stepped forward to mediate. We'll see soon enough. It's about to start. Let's find our seats. Hearing this, Hong Wu took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. There's no point in speculating. Once the match is over, everything will be clear. Guangmu watched the upcoming match with a serious expression. As the sun rose higher in the sky, a sudden voice rang out, catching everyone off guard. Yuan Wu led two people toward the center of the stage. The three of them appeared with stern expressions, their steps full of confidence. Wang Wu furrowed his brows cautiously, glancing sideways at his opponent. Likewise, Zhang Jin, looking puzzled, slowly shifted his gaze in that direction. Standing between Wang Wu and Zhang Jin, Yuan Wu began explaining the rules. It's nothing complicated, just a few things to keep in mind. He proceeded to list a series of rules. Hearing this, Zhang Jin immediately grew nervous. Can I really do this? Then, he glanced at the audience. This is supposed to be an internal sparring match, but so many people came to watch. I can't let this shake me. He carefully surveyed his surroundings, taking in every detail. Fixing his gaze on Guangmu, he silently reassured himself. Master is sitting right there. Don't worry, I won't disappoint him. Standing there, Zhang Jin radiated confidence and energy, fully prepared for the fight ahead. Observing him, Guangmu couldn't help but sigh. He only learned to combine footwork and boxing techniques in a week. His control over internal energy and explosive power is still lacking. I told him to limit his use of power bursts, but I'm still worried. At that moment, Yuan Wu's voice rang out loudly. All right, I now declare the start of the Secular Disciples preliminary match. The two stood face to face in the vast arena. Wang Wu and Zhang Jin stared at each other with serious expressions. Looking at his opponent, Zhang Jin couldn't help but remark to himself. They say he's still young, but he looks so mature. His large physique must be that fierce expression of his. Wang Wu smirked slightly and introduced himself. I am Junior Wang Wu. I look forward to learning from you. But inwardly, he added to himself, this kid is the son of Zhenshang. Hearing this, Zhang Jin scratched his head awkwardly and smiled. I am Zhang Jin. I look forward to learning from you. Without wasting another moment, Wang Wu swiftly raised his hand and spread his stance, preparing for battle. He got into his fighting position and called out to Zhang Jin. Let's begin. Just as he was about to strike, Wang Wu hesitated, noticing that Zhang Jin remained motionless. Unable to hold back, he asked, What are you doing? Aren't you going to fight? Zhang Jin replied calmly, I'm already ready. Hearing this, Wang Wu grew furious. You trained under Hong Wu and still dare to look down on me. Zhang Jin quickly clarified, I'm not looking down on you. This is my first match. Wang Wu clenched his teeth in frustration. This is ridiculous. Why do I have to fight some amateur? Grinding his teeth, he decided, forget it. I'll just fight. With a loud shout, Wang Wu charged forward. You dare underestimate me. No matter how skilled you are, don't be overconfident. As his fist neared Zhang Jin, the young fighter showed no sign of concern. With a light step, he effortlessly dodged the attack. Wang Wu was shocked to see Zhang Jin evade so easily. Clenching his teeth, he refused to acknowledge it. That was just luck. Let's see if you can dodge this. Without hesitation, he twisted his body and swung another punch. Once again, Zhang Jin dodged with ease. Planting his foot to regain balance, Wang Wu prepared for another strike. He launched a powerful punch straight at Zhang Jin, but once again, his opponent easily avoided it. Wang Wu was furious as he spun around, glaring fiercely at Zhang Jin. He turned and launched a straight kick toward him. Zhang Jin quickly stepped back, dodging the kick. As he evaded the attack, Zhang Jin shuddered slightly. So dangerous. The two engaged in a frenzied fight, leaving Guang Mu astonished. However, in reality, only Wang Wu was attacking, while Zhang Jin continuously dodged. Guang Mu watched the unfolding battle with great surprise. The spectators above immediately voiced their admiration. Amitabha, Zhang Jin's footwork is incredible. Junior Wang Wu can't even touch him. At that moment, Wang Wu, full of excitement, approached Hong Wu and praised. With this footwork, he can hold his own against the disciples of our temple. Did you teach him this in such a short time? Hearing the compliment, the old master laughed heartily, feeling immensely pleased with himself. That's not a footwork technique. It's something he comprehended on his own. I merely demonstrated. Everyone was stunned, their mouths agape. Seeing their reaction, Hong Wu grinned in satisfaction. You're surprised too soon. Meanwhile, Guang Yun observed the battle with a serious expression, while Yuan Hao remained silent, saying nothing about the matter. On the battlefield, Wang Wu was panting heavily, exhausted. He muttered in frustration. Damn it. Why can't I land a single hit? Clenching his teeth, he calculated in his mind. I expected him to be exceptional since he was taught by great martial uncle Hong Wu, but I never thought I wouldn't even be able to touch him. A kid who has only been training for a few months.